Amid the ruins of the apocalypse, with monsters roaming everywhere, a truck speeds down the road. Inside, two survivors race to reach their families. But there's a problem. The monsters are closing in fast. Then, the main character, Kim, throws open the back of the truck and starts using his subspace to hurl all kinds of junk at the pursuing creatures. Refrigerators in particular prove remarkably effective. The monster dogs are crushed and scattered across the road. With the danger gone, nothing stands in their way. Kim even pulls out a Coke and a donut from his subspace, offering them to the driver so he can relax a little. But this isn't just any subspace. It's an entire logistics center, capable of infinitely multiplying resources, all under our hero's control. He can hide there himself at any time and even bring his friends into this safe zone. So how did he gain such an unbelievable power? It all began just a few days ago. The story starts with our 9-to-5 worker Kim talking to one of his clanker buddies at his job. He keeps yapping, but the robot doesn't really understand and ignores him. This facility is mostly filled with AI robots, so this is all the social interaction he can get. Our boy sighs since he is a bit annoyed by all the clankers and regrets ending up in a place like this. Just 2 months ago, he was full of hope and passion after being discharged from the military. However, it didn't last long as he soon got a text from his parents telling him that they were moving to a different city. This meant that our boy had to live alone in a studio apartment near his school. His parents had already paid 6 months of rent, and he had some savings from his military service, but he still had to find a job. My man thought it was all sunshine and rainbows until he actually tried to apply for a job. Bro got rejected even before his interview, as he didn't have more experience than his age. Fast forward a month and he was losing his mind. He texted his sisters, who made fun of him even more. One of them suggested applying for the AI delivery companies since the work was easy. This is how he ended up in this place, talking to robots instead of actual people. As he is busy thinking, his manager walks up to him and mentions that they are out of tuna cans in the stock. However, the robot still shows that they have some left. He asks him to look for the boxes, and before our boy can even answer, the manager is gone. My man just stands there thinking to himself how this guy is even colder than the robots. He makes his way to the back of the store and finally finds the missing boxes. As he retrieves them, he suddenly hears the door closing. Turns out that his manager has accidentally locked him in the back of the facility. He tries calling him, but his phone has no signal. Our boy accepts his fate and decides to just chill in the back for a bit since it doesn't really feel that bad. He even sends a selfie to his sister. All of a sudden, she texts him saying that she heard a building collapsing in front of her home. Moments later, he gets a call from her, but as soon as he picks up, the whole facility starts shaking and the alarms are activated. He panics as the staff orders everyone to evacuate. Trying to find a way out, he starts knocking on the door calling for help, but it's no use. Even his phone battery is dead, so he can't even call emergency service. To make things worse, someone violently starts smashing the door from the outside. Kim is no fool, and deep down he knows that if he opens that door or makes any sound, he is dead. So he calmly sits his ass down and waits until it's all over. Fortunately for him, the banging stops and he ends up staying in the warehouse for 3 days. He assumes something big is going on outside since no one came to help him yet. However, being trapped in the warehouse has also saved his life, so he can't complain. While using the last of his phone battery to send a note to his sisters, he hopes a soldier from his country can come and save him. Suddenly, a system notification pops up in front of him informing him that he has been chosen and has awakened an ability. His ability description mentions that he can store one object in his subspace. Seeing the system screen in front of him, our boy thinks to himself that he has officially started tweaking and casually asks the system to put the entire logistics center inside the subspace. The system asks for a confirmation one last time, and after he says yes, the entire center vanishes into thin air. Our boy sees the outside world for the first time in 3 days and quickly realizes that it's gone to hell. The system informs him that it'll take some time to shift the object to the subspace, but he is too distracted by what he has just seen. Suddenly, a massive shadow appears in front of him, and without even looking back, our boy can tell it's nothing good. He composes himself for a second and runs as fast as he can while screaming for help. While looking back, he notices that the creature chasing him is an ogre, and judging by its speed, it's going to catch up to him soon enough. Lucky for him, the system finishes synchronization just as the ogre is about to rip him up. He quickly says yes to the confirmation message and gets teleported to his own subspace through a portal. The ogre is still outside and he can see him through the hole, but the creature can't pass through without his permission. However, that's not even the most surprising part, as our boy looks back to find himself standing in the logistics center he jokingly stored inside his subspace. As he tries making sense of all this, he gets a notification telling him that he has received a reward for completing the tutorial and entering his subspace for the first time. This reward turns out to be a mana stone, and our boy has no idea what to do with it. Moreover, that ogre is still at the door knocking. Just to be safe, he confirms from the system that the creature can't come in unless permitted to. While looking through the system window, he reads some of the stats for the logistics center. Our boy notices that the center only has 2 minutes left and asks the robot what it means. The robot explains that he has to continue providing power to the subspace in order to keep it operational. To do that, he can use his mana stones, as one of them will keep the facility running for 24 hours. Kim notices that his robot pal Pax has become smarter. While they are talking, the power suddenly shuts off. The robot warns him that without power, some of the food items and the robot itself might suffer serious damage. Apparently, there is a dedicated system inside the facility that stores and ships fresh veggies, meat, and even other food items. Our boy quickly realizes that in his current situation, food is the most important element for survival. He asks the robot how he can get more of these stones. The clanker mentions that in order to get more mana stones, he must kill the monsters outside. Our boy is a bit shocked hearing this, but he decides to use his mana stone to power the facility for now. In order to fight those things, he needs a weapon, so he starts looking at some toolboxes. He knows that it's too risky to attack the monsters up close, so he starts looking for things that he can throw from a distance. However, judging from the size of the tools, he isn't sure if they are going to do any damage to the massive ogre. Still, our boy doesn't really have any choice, and it's not like he has to kill it in one shot, so he stops thinking and swings an axe at the ogre. As he expected, the strike does little damage to its thick muscles. After slashing the ogre for a bit, he goes back to check the remaining stock and realizes that he only has one axe left in the box. He asks the robot to check for the remaining stock while wondering if he should use something heavier to target the joints. At the same time, the robot finishes searching and mentions that he has 15 axes left in the stock. Hearing this, he thinks to himself that he should use them sparingly. However, he soon realizes that the number of axes in stock was the same when he started throwing them. Our boy starts running to the tools section and notices a bunch of axes lying around. This is when the robot explains that no matter how many times he uses these items, they won't be reduced in quantity. In other words, he has an unlimited amount of supplies inside this facility. It also means that he can continue throwing axes without worrying about the remaining stock. However, his throws are still pretty weak and it basically tickles the ogre. Lucky for him, the robot mentions that he can do the throwing automatically by shipping the items outside. This ability has a 30 seconds cooldown, which will be reduced as the skill levels up. In order to ship an item outside, all he has to do is chant, "Ship it," while thinking about that item, and it will automatically be shipped outside. Our boy quickly tries it and an axe flies straight towards the ogre, hitting him directly on the head and knocking him out. Kim is understandably baffled by the speed and asks the robot what's happening. Pax explains that the default speed for shipping is set to 40 miles per hour, but he increased it to a maximum of 50 miles per hour at his current level. Moreover, if he wishes to level up his skill, he might need more mana stones. At that moment, our boy finally understands the entire game and starts gearing up to go outside. Everything he needs, including the map, is already inside the facility. He simply marks his destination and decides to ride his electric bike, since traveling by foot is not a good idea given the situation outside. Our boy dramatically takes his bike outside the subspace and urges everyone to hold on as he is about to come save them. Fast forward half an hour, my man has already killed 12 ogres. During his time outside, he learned that his subspace ability was kinda overpowered. Being inside gives him protection against the monsters while he can safety throw stuff at them. Even though the shipment skill has a 30 seconds cooldown and some distance condition, he can still upgrade it using mana stones. Moreover, he also has a recall skill that automatically pulls the items back, allowing him to hit the monsters twice. This doesn't just work on simple tools, he can use this to recall mana stones as well, which means that he doesn't have to take a single step outside in the entire process. By now, he has collected 13 mana stones, and as long as he can keep the facility running, he won't have any trouble surviving. With these thoughts, he steps outside the subspace, since he also needs to get his family inside. However, he quickly notices something flying high in the sky and realizes that ogres aren't the only monsters he has to face. While he is distracted by the wyvern, he hears strange noises in the distance. Our boy immediately knows that it's a person calling for help. Surely enough, some old guy is being chased by a giant wyvern and he's too slow to escape. The monster strikes him down using its tail and continues following him. One of his friends runs over to help, but the monster casually ignores him and continues focusing on the old man. The guy wonders if it's targeting the old guy because he is an easier prey. With a knife in his hands, he thinks about attacking, but deep down, he knows it won't do a thing to the giant monster. While this is happening, both the men notice a bright light approaching from a distance. Before they can react, someone throws an axe at the wyvern, killing the monster on the spot. Outboy casually arrives on his bike and asks them if they are okay. The two men are completely shaken and question if he is a soldier. He points to his uniform and explains that he works in the warehouse of the logistics center. This surprises the men even more, and they assume he must have some powerful ability since he took down that monster in a single hit. It turns out that one of the men also has an ability, but it's only driving, and he has not gotten the chance to use it yet considering their circumstances. Our boy asks them if there are any other people around, and the men explain that a lot of people gathered at the warehouse to find food. However, it also attracted plenty of monsters which resulted in most of the people dying. Currently, there's only 15 of them left, and they are hiding in the terminal basement in District E. The two of them came outside to scout for any roads that they can use to drive cars and also search for food. However, the warehouse building disappeared out of nowhere. The men even offer him to stay with them. Our boy doesn't want to take any hasty decisions, so he thinks it over for a bit, and decides to go with them since he needs more information. He knows that they are also putting themselves at risk by bringing him in. Moreover, they don't yet know how his ability truly functions, so if something happens, he can always run inside the subspace. All of this sounded good until he actually went to the basement and saw a guy aura farming by standing over an ogre's corpse. One of the men walks over to the guy asking him if everything is fine. The aura farming guy turns out to be their leader named Jinmok, and he explains that one of the ogres got lost and ended up here. Lucky for them, they were able to strike first and took it down. Even though they didn't suffer any injuries, it shows that even this place isn't safe to monster attacks. As they are talking, he suddenly notices our boy standing in the distance and asks who he is. The guy mentions that he saved them earlier from a wyvern and that he works at the logistics center. He starts glazing our boy, telling them how strong he is. Hearing this, a lady walks over to him and holds his hands, thanking him for saving the two men. Kim awkwardly stands there, telling her that it was no big deal. She gets a bit carried away and asks him if he is single. This is when the leader guy steps in and apologizes on her behalf. He explains that the two men are like family to them and introduces himself as the branch manager. After all the thanks, he starts explaining what they have in storage and how they take turns guarding the place. The guy still doesn't know about the warehouse incident, so one of the men informs him that it has disappeared. This shocks everyone since they were relying on the warehouse to restock food items. With their only supply option gone, the leader orders everyone to dig the tunnel as fast as they possibly can. It was already a part of their plan, but now it has become a necessity since they can't stay here without food. Everyone agrees with him and appears determined to dig the tunnel. Meanwhile, our boy is clueless about the whole thing and asks what they are talking about. The guy explains that there are people living in other places and they can only get to them through vehicles. Unfortunately, every single exit is blocked except the tunnel, but that too is surrounded by a bunch of wyverns. They have been saving food items so they could slowly prepare to move out through the tunnel, but considering their current situation, they don't really have any time to wait around. Jinmok tells him that he doesn't really have to go with them since he can still leave this place on his bike. Our boy mentions that he also needs a car so he can't really avoid the tunnel. In his mind, he knows that he can deal with the wyverns by himself, but he still doesn't want to reveal his abilities yet. Even though they look like good people, they are in survival mode and have been fighting monsters continuously. It's better for him not to reveal too much information. He suggests going into the tunnel by himself to assess the situation first, but in reality, he wants to take them all alone to not put more people at risk. When he killed the ogres earlier, he looked into the system for some upgrades. It showed him some new skills like precision delivery, shipping 2 items at the same time, and automatic shipping. All of these abilities took 10 mana stones to unlock. Our boy decided not to use his mana stones for now and to save them for later. Kim grins as he thinks to himself that there is only one thing he needs to upgrade in order to kill these wyverns. His plan is to clear the tunnel by himself, collect all the mana stones, and upgrade his abilities more. However, it doesn't really work out that way, and he is now stuck with the guy from earlier, who is also driving his bike. The guy mentions that they couldn't send him alone because it's dangerous, even though our boy saved both him and his buddy from a wyvern earlier. It's the same guy with the driving ability, so he asks him if he saw a pop-up when he started driving. The man reveals that he only saw one when he first got the ability, but he still feels like he can drive any vehicle. Bro ended up as an Uber driver in an apocalypse. Even our boy isn't sure about him and says that they can just walk if he can't drive properly. A few moments later, the driver guy climbs on the handlebar and starts riding the bike like a skateboard. He explains that it's easier to see this way. Meanwhile, our boy is almost shitting his pants since he can't even see what's in front of him. The guy spots a wyvern in front of them and asks what they should do. They end up doing a drive-by and snip the monster in the head. With the wyvern down, they finally reach the tunnel. Unfortunately for them, even more wyverns are waiting for them at the entrance. The driver guy freezes in fear and starts counting his last seconds. Before he gets slimed, our boy opens the system window and quickly upgrades his shipping skill to reduce its cooldown. The wyverns continue advancing towards the other guy, and just before they eat him up, Kim shouts, "Ship it," and kills both of the monsters in one go. As the driver guy looks back, he witnesses the MC standing in front of a portal with the whole facility inside. Our boy uses 1 mana stone to reduce the cooldown of his ability by 5 seconds. He continues reducing it until it reaches 5 seconds and it can't go down any further unless he upgrades his subspace. Afterwards, he recalls the mana stones inside the subspace and asks the guy to stay behind him. The man stares ahead to notice 2 wyverns running at them. However, for some reason, they can't seem to reach him. Our boy ships another axe outside, and when the wyvern tries to attack, he simply jumps back into his subspace. From inside, he can continue throwing more axes. The driver guy is shocked seeing all this and realizes just how powerful this ability truly is. He knows that if our boy wants, he can break through the tunnel without breaking a sweat. They need the tunnel to move vehicles and transport food, but for him, he simply needs a car. He wonders how far he is planning to go since he can't use his electric bike. Suddenly, the wyverns start running away. This is when the guy notices the mana stones left behind. Kim is a bit surprised to see that he didn't know about the mana stones. He explains that the stones can be used to enhance their abilities, which also comes as a surprise to the man. The man asks him if he can break the tunnel on his own given how powerful his ability is. Our boy simply grins and avoids answering, which makes the man even more worried. Kim explains that he only wanted to come here and see if he could clear the tunnel by himself. Revealing his abilities wasn't part of his plan. Hearing this, the man feels bad and apologizes for ruining his plan. Our boy assures him that it's all good since he wouldn't be able to find his way to the tunnel without him. As the two decide to go back, the man questions how far he is planning to go with the vehicle. He reveals that he is planning to go Uijeongbu to meet with his family. Something clicks in the driver's mind and he shouts that he is also planning to go the same way. His family lives somewhere in the middle, so he asks our boy if he can go with him. The man knows that he might not be able to make it back safely even if they clear off the tunnel. Kim, on the other hand, can easily fight off the monsters. He suggests teaming up with him as the driver and our boy working as the fighter. Hearing all this, the MC realizes that it's not actually a bad deal. The man is pretty good at driving, and teaming up with him will also allows him to hide his abilities from others. He decides to trust the man and agrees with his plan, but on the conditions that he will clear the tunnel by himself, and he won't reveal anything about his abilities to the others. The guy quickly agrees and assures him that he will convince everyone else. A few moments later, he is standing in front of everyone glazing our boy and his abilities. Now everyone knows he is going to clear the tunnel alone, and he has some powerful skills. During all this, our boy just awkwardly stands there thinking to himself that he is screwed. However, since it's all in the open, he decides to go with it and announces that he will be clearing the tunnel by tomorrow morning. He knows that they are worried about food, so he needs to clear it as fast as he can. When he is done talking, Jinmok walks over to him and says that they won't ask him about his abilities or interfere with his plan, but still they want to give him something in return. This something turns out to be a bunch of food supplies that they had stored up. Our boy nervously apologizes to them, insisting that he can't take them since they already have a limited supply. However, the driver guy assures him that it's fine and reminds him that he also has his own family to take care of. This throws our boy into deep thought as he wonders if they are okay. At the same time, the others bring out some drinks to celebrate their last night before they finally meet their families. The next morning, our boy prepares to raid the tunnel on his trusty bike and assures them that he will be back soon. Everyone puts their trust in him and patiently wait outside while he drives in. Just staring at the entrance, he can see tens of monsters casually moving inside the tunnel. We go back to a flashback into his past where he is fighting with his sister. His dad smiles as he looks at them fighting and says that they seem pretty close to each other. He mentions that he used to be an only child, so he is a bit envious of their bond. When they grow older, they will surely realize just how precious family is. Just as he is lecturing them, his wife shows up and reminds him that he needs to help her with dinner. The dad quickly obeys, leaving the kids behind. Kim sits there with a smile on his face as he feels the love for his family. Just the night before the tunnel raid, he sat by the wall and watched as everyone cried for their loved ones. The driver guy woke up in the middle of the night and noticed that he was missing. He walked outside and saw him filling up the trucks. When asked what he was doing, he explained that he loaded all the trucks halfway with supplies to not make them too heavy. Since he had a lot in stock, it wasn't that big of a deal for him. The driver guy still couldn't believe he would do such a thing for them. Fast forward to the actual raid, and our boy is having no problem destroying all the monsters. In his mind, he wishes that he could put all of these people in the safety of his subspace, but it currently has a limit of only one person. At level 2, it can accommodate a maximum of 20 people, but it required 100 mana stones, which he doesn't have. Even if he kills all the remaining wyverns in the tunnel, he might not gather enough to level up. However, he still knows that he'll need to level up at some point since he has to put his family inside. While he is thinking, he suddenly notices a wyvern staring at him from a distance. This one looks a bit different from the others and has an unsettling aura. Meanwhile, everyone is still waiting for him outside. They are worried for his safety, but they also know they can't help him since they'll only get in his way. Suddenly, someone notices him coming out of the tunnel with blood all over his clothes. Initially, the people are worried, but when they notice the smile on his face, they all start celebrating. Since the tunnel has been successfully cleared, it's time for them to move out. Jinmok gives his parting speech and hopes for the best. Before they leave, our boy mentions that he has prepared a small gift for them in the trucks, so if they run into trouble, they should just open the cargo hold. The trucks finally start moving, and our boy parts ways with the group. Even though he is leaving, he is still stuck on that strange wyvern he saw in the tunnel. It ran away before he could kill it. He guesses it's probably their boss or something. Their truck suddenly drives over a dead soldier, but they don't stop since the bodies are literally everywhere. Our boy knows that he might have been one of these bodies if he was still in his military service. His thoughts are interrupted when they run into a barbed wire. They assume it was put up by the military to prevent the monsters from advancing. Given the situation, the driver guy suggests taking a different route, but our boy has other ideas. He spots a bunch of monsters on the other side and wants to use them to level up. Instead of going around, he asks the guy if they can use the narrow sidewalk to get through. The guy tells him that it's possibly, and that's all our boy needs to hear. He excitedly orders him to drive ahead. The driver guy is still restless, and his nerves only get worse when he sees what lies ahead. An ogre is locked in battle with a pack of dog-like monsters. For a brief moment, the creature fights alone, but soon the dogs swarm it from every side. Within seconds, the ogre falls as if it were nothing more than common prey. The sight is so brutal that both men freeze in shock. The driver guy breaks into a sweat and starts panicking. He worries about their plan and insists that they should turn back and find another way. Our boy, however, shows no fear. He insists the route is the best option and even compares the situation to a StarCraft, where players use the terrain to gain the upper hand. He explains that the same logic can apply here. Positioning and timing can turn the battle in their favor. The driver guy finds it hard to believe that a game tactic could be used in real life, but eventually he gives in to Kim's confidence. Our boy instructs him to simply reverse the truck into that little sidewalk. Reluctantly, the driver guy does just that. The noise immediately draws the dog's attention, pulling them away from their feast. At the same time, the hero turns to his system. He decides to use his auto-shipment ability earlier than expected, spending 10 mana stones to activate it, leaving him with 27. At the rear gate of the vehicle, he orders his system to boost his delivery speed using the remaining crystals. The stones are consumed, raising the shipment speed from 70 to 100 kilometers per hour. Our boy then opens the portal, challenging the beasts to attack with all their might. The fight erupts instantly. The hounds charge toward him at frightening speed, but before they can close in, his system announces that a massive refrigerator is ready for delivery. The heavy unit slams into the monsters, stunning them. Every few seconds, another fridge barrels through the portal. Within moments, a dozen hounds are crushed, and 12 mana stones are harvested. My man grins as he notices that his plan is working better than expected. His skills have clearly grown stronger since the tunnel fight, where he first experimented with his abilities. Though he could have relied on his axes, which now benefits from his speed boost, he learned that fast enemies could easily evade it. Instead, he unlocked a delivery precision skill. It launches attacks directly forward but only activates if the enemy stays in range. Against the hounds, this tactic proves far safer. If he had used axes, their speed might have let them dodge and overwhelm him. Moreover, these monsters don't run away even when a bunch of them are killed. In this situation, he knows that in just a couple of seconds another hound could close in on him. Swinging an axe against such fast enemies would not be very effective. A refrigerator, however, is another story. When it slams into them, it doesn't just hit one, it crushes several together, breaking their momentum completely. Because of this, he hardly needs to lift a finger as the system handles everything on its own. Watching the endless cycle, our boy grows lazy and even a little bored. He orders his clanker buddy Pax to keep sending deliveries without stopping, and the system obeys. The pack keeps charging, but another fridge always meets them head-on, killing them instantly. From the driver's seat, his friend stares in horror. He can't believe how this man is throwing refrigerators one after another, since he had always assumed his main weapon was an axe, not endless appliances. And unlike the axes, he doesn't even bother retrieving these fridges. He just keeps summoning more. Just then, the side door opens and R steps out casually, asking if he wants something to eat. Shocked, the driver blurts out a question, demanding to know if he truly has unlimited stock. For a moment, Kim looks puzzled, then asks him if he didn't already know. The driver quickly explains his misunderstanding. He thought he had been recycling the same axes by picking them up, not creating new ones each time. Our boy bursts out laughing, clarifying that he only retrieved the axes so no one else would get hurt. Leaving sharp blades lying around could cause accidents. That was the only reason, nothing more. Hearing this truth, the driver breaks into a cold sweat and asks again if the resources are truly endless. My man quickly says yes and changes the topic back to food. His friend nervously asks for a Coke Zero and a donut. Inside the vehicle, the guy lowers his head and apologizes to our boy. He admits he never really understood his ability and feels guilty for receiving kindness, food, and protection without realizing the truth. Our hero only smiles and reminds him of the day he chose to follow him into the tunnel for patrol. That memory makes him thankful. He mentions how he appreciates the trust shown to him and promises to return the favor if he ever needs anything in the future. The driver guy also expresses gratitude, thanking him for taking care of him and for wiping out the monsters, saying it will let him reach home sooner. He explains that once they cross the bridge, his house is only an hour away. Our boy is excited for him to be finally meeting his family. Even so, the driver worries about what condition his family might be in, hoping they are safe and waiting for him. Kim notices his unease and lightens the mood by pointing out his torn, filthy clothes. He suggests preparing new clothes while the fight continues. When asked what kind of style he prefers, the driver admits he isn't sure if his system can create what he has in mind. A moment later, my man is all dripped up looking like a seasoned monster killer. Our boy glances back, noting that only a couple of hounds remain and the rest have already been dealt with. Suddenly, his transformed friend shifts into first gear and slams the accelerator. The vehicle bursts forward at terrifying speed, throwing up dust as it storms onto the bridge. Even our hero is startled, surprised at this sudden display of skill. He warns him to hold on tight, promising to cover the route in 20 minutes instead of an hour. The car sways dangerously, at times seeming to ride on only 2 tires, jerking from side to side like a storm. Soon the rough ride takes its toll and our boy groans that he feels like vomiting. But then his friend stops the car and announces they've arrived. When they step outside, the area shocks them. The buildings are massive yet broken down, as if they have stood for centuries. Every structure around them is in ruins, but strangely, not a single corpse or bone is in sight. The place feels abandoned, completely different from the main street, with no trace of human life. At last, the driver guy reaches the gate of his own home, but when he faces it, fear grips him. His hands tremble and he can't bring himself to press the keypad. He dreads what he might find inside, thinking what he'll do if his family is gone. The hero watches from behind, silently understanding. This man drove the route in less than 20 minutes, but now he cannot take a single step forward. He knows why. When there's even the smallest chance of finding loved ones alive, no one wants to destroy that hope by opening the door too soon. If he were in his place, he would also hesitate. To make things easier, he offers to press the doorbell for him. The guy feels nervous but agrees with the suggestion. Our boy knows no one wants to face a painful truth, so he decides to open the gate himself. He looks back one last time, but before he can ring the bell, the gate unlocks on its own. Both men freeze in shock. A woman and a little girl stand at the entrance. The woman cries out for her husband, and the child runs forward, calling for her father. The moment the driver guy sees them, his emotions overflow. Tears stream down his face as he runs to embrace his wife and daughter. Seeing them so emotional, Kim feels genuinely happy that his family is alive. Curious, the guy asks why the wife opened the door. She explains that she heard noise outside, peeked through the peephole, and saw them waiting there. He tells them just how glad he is to know they're safe. Meanwhile, the daughter scolds him through tears, upset that he took so long to return. The wife then notices our hero and asks who he is. The driver guy introduces him as the man who saved his life and helped him reach home safely, calling him their family's benefactor. At that moment, our boy suddenly feels dizzy and collapses to the ground as voices fade around him. Struggling to stay conscious, he mutters in disbelief, insisting he can't fall asleep like this. The driver guy catches him, panicked, asking why he is collapsing. The scene shifts to his childhood. He remembers sitting with his father. As a kid, he asks why his father isn't crying even though their grandma just died. His father smiles gently, explaining that farewells bring many emotions, not just sadness. Over time, memories mix together. Love, anger, regret, loneliness, happiness, and what remains should be gratitude, not just pain. The boy doesn't fully understand and asks what gratitude means. His father tells him it's gratitude for knowing real love, a love that expects nothing in return. He explains that love is never easy to give or receive, but one day when the boy grows older, he will understand. Another memory surfaces, one of a pillow fight with his sister Saul. She smacks him so hard with a pillow that he ends up with a swollen eye. Furious, the young Kim shouts at her for hitting too hard, but she only mocks him, calling him a crybaby and insisting that a pillow is soft. He storms off, threatening to tell their father, while she laughs, proud of her victory. He does complain to his father, but his father brushes it off, saying fights like this only show how close siblings truly are. He reminds his son that one day he will realize how valuable family bonds are and understand the real meaning of love. From the kitchen, his mother interrupts, scolding her husband for lecturing the children instead of helping with dinner. She sets the table, calls everyone to eat, and yells at the eldest daughter, Juyeon, to put down her phone and join them. She finally joins the table, though reluctantly. Their mother can't resist teasing her, joking that she must have a boyfriend since she never puts her phone down. She blushes and quickly denies it, insisting she's only in middle school and just chats with friends. Before the teasing can go further, the TV blares with the sound of a commentator shouting about a brutal move in a fight. Everyone's attention shifts. The older sister frowns at how violent it looks, but Sul is thrilled, her eyes glued to the screen. The older brother turns to her, reminding her that she'll soon be in middle school and encouraging her to join a boxing or sports club since she's pretty good at that. The little sister agrees right away, and even brags that this is why she chose the school in the first place. Meanwhile, her brother isn't that young anymore either. He is about to start middle school, and he feels a huge sense of relief, convinced he can finally escape his sister and start fresh. On his first day, though, he notices a difference. His classmates wear crisp new uniforms, while his own is worn out and oversized, clearly a hand-me-down. Still, he feels happy just to be wearing the uniform, even if it doesn't fit well. Time passes and he grows older. In high school, he finds himself once again in trouble, this time at the hands of bullies. 3 or 4 of them gang up on him, beating him badly. Just as the leader raises his fist to land a final blow, a hand grabs his wrist. It's his sister. With a cold, disappointed look, she stares at her brother's pitiful state before telling him that from the next morning, he'll be training with her. His heart sinks, as he knows her training will be pure torture. Despite this harsh routine, life continues. One day, a notification pops up. His older sister has been accepted into nursing school. Their father announces the news proudly, leaving both siblings stunned. More time passes. One evening, while our boy is working at the computer, his dad calls him over and tells him it's time. He looks confused until his father hands him an official letter. The moment he reads it, his heart drops, since it's the government notice for his mandatory military service. The day of departure arrives. When his sister sees him with his short military haircut, she bursts out laughing, teasing him without mercy. Meanwhile, his mother, worried, tells him to take care and come home safe. With a cheerful wave, the young man leaves alongside other recruits. His family waves back happily, but once he walks some distance, his true feelings break through and he starts crying. The scene shifts again. In the present, he slowly regains consciousness. He realizes he is lying on a soft pillow inside someone's house. Confused and disoriented, he looks around, trying to make sense of where he is and what happened. As his memories return, our boy panics. He realizes he actually fainted, and the last thing he recalls is the driver guy reuniting with his family. Worried something might have gone wrong, he quickly summons his axe through a small portal. A voice behind him suddenly breaks the silence, asking if he is awake. Startled, he turns and sees the driver guy's wife and daughter calmly sitting at the table, eating. For a moment, they all just stare at each other. His eyes then fall on the driver guy, who is resting peacefully nearby. The wife explains that he had collapsed suddenly and fallen into such a deep sleep that she hadn't dared to wake him. Embarrassed at drawing his weapon in the wrong place, he quickly sends the axe back into his subspace and asks how long he was out. The wife replies that it was only 3 hours and expresses her heartfelt gratitude for how much he helped her husband to survive and reunite with his family. Our boy feels awkward under such appreciation, insisting it wasn't like that and that the driver guy helped him just as much. While they are talking, Young-soo wakes up and the wife urges our hero to eat first, reminding them her husband hasn't eaten either, since he wanted to share the meal with the hero. He nods gratefully and sits with his friend. The wife humbly explains that she did her best with what little they had, though she cannot guarantee the taste. The hero thanks her, saying he isn't used to luxury and is grateful for whatever is served. When he takes his first bite, it feels like heaven. After so long, he finally tastes proper food, made with real ingredients. It reminds him of his mother's kimchi back home, the most delicious thing he ever had. In moments, his bowl is empty, and he thinks to himself that not since his military days has he enjoyed such a meal. During the meal, the driver guy asks if his destination is Gangnam. Our boy nods, confirming that's his next stop. The driver guy immediately offers to drive him there. Shocked, the hero asks what he means. The man explains that he already discussed it with his wife, and she agreed. It's their way of repaying him for helping them reunite. Our boy raises his hand, stopping him, and clarifies that Gangnam is only a stop. His true destination is Uijeongbu, which is much farther. For that, he will need a car. The guy acknowledges this but says he has one condition, which they should discuss outside. Once outside, he proposes that they all go together to Gangnam in the truck. After he reaches his destination, the driver guy plans to use his electric bike to return home. Kim frowns, pointing out that the bike isn't enough for such a dangerous journey. But the driver guy remains calm, assuring him that with his skills, he can manage. Our hero studies the driver guy carefully, wondering why anyone would take such a risk for him. The man has already reunited with his family, has enough supplies to survive, and reached safety. His driving skills are incredible, but even that doesn't explain why he'd put himself back in danger. Our boy straight up asks him why he is doing this, even though he is already united with his family. The driver guy looks him straight in the eyes and turns the question back. Wasn't he the who saved him first? He asks him why he helped him back then. Hearing this, our boy falls silent. The guy explains that if the hero hadn't helped, his family would never have made it this far, and they would have died back in the tunnel. That's why he wants to return the favor now, to do whatever he can with his skills. He adds that they're both stuck in the same situation. His awakened ability may be powerful, but that doesn't make the road easy. The world may be ruined, but neither of them has given up hope for their families. Just as the driver guy risked his life crossing the tunnel, the hero is risking his life now. He makes it clear though that he won't gamble blindly. He'll do everything he can to help, but if things get too dangerous, he'll pull back. He's not foolish enough to risk his life or his family's without reason. Hearing this, the hero smiles faintly. The driver guy says his only wish is to support him however possible. Our boy then explains that his ability, Subspace, creates an area no one can enter without his permission. As long as he maintains it, he can store or duplicate items inside. The driver guy nods since he already knows. Kim continues. If the guy truly wants to help, he also has conditions. His journey doesn't end at Gangnam. After that, he must go to Iljiro, then Dubongu, and finally Uijeongbu, searching for his family. He can't do it alone. Once he upgrades his subspace, he'll be able to bring people inside. That means the driver guy, his wife and his daughter must come with him. Thankfully, after hunting the mutated hounds, he now has enough mana stones to upgrade. If the driver guy agrees to help him, then he'll protect his family as well. My man immediately drips up in his veteran uniform and says that he's ready. At the same time, Kim opens the system window and uses his mana stones to upgrade the warehouse capacity. With this upgrade, the facility can now accommodate 20 people at the same time. He also gets a new ability that allows him store any item in front of him. The maintenance cost for the facility also rises to 6 mana stones. Our boy decides to ignore all these details for now and allows the family to enter the subspace. The three of them step inside, and for the first time, they witness something beyond the chaos of their world. Our boy introduces them to Pax and explains that if they need anything, they can just ask the robot. The wife feels hesitant using all the items since they seem too precious, but he assures her that the facility has an unlimited supply so they can do whatever. After explaining everything to them, he informs the guy that they will leave in 30 minutes and decides to check his new abilities. His main ability is to store any item in front of him in the subspace. Back then, when he first awakened his ability, he unknowingly put the facility inside the subspace. As a result, the Pax eye of the facility and his system merged, creating something far more powerful. From then on, his subspace gained more functions apart from just entering and exiting it. Since his abilities were so powerful, he didn't expect anything else for leveling up. However, now that he stares at the system screen, he can see that leveling up would allow him to store one more object. The idea still makes him shiver. Moreover, for 50 mana stones, he can install a lab inside the facility that will allow him to combine and transform items registered in the subspace. He doesn't really have enough mana stones to try out this ability for now, so he decides to experiment with the subspace itself. My man imagines testing the limits by trying to store something ridiculous, like the entire Earth itself. To his surprise, the system actually prompts him to confirm the target. Without hesitation, he gives permission, though in truth it's a reckless choice. Fortunately, the attempt fails. The system informs him that the Earth is beyond range. Everyone is safe, and disaster is avoided. Relieved, he sighs and mutters that he expected this outcome anyway. Before he can dwell on it further, the driver guy interrupts with something practical. He has checked the routes to Gangnam and points out a road on a map. Our boy reminds him that he was supposed to play with his daughter instead of worrying about maps, but the driver only gestures behind him, where little girl is already fast asleep. The guy admits once again how grateful he is. The hero tells him they're simply helping each other, nothing more, but he promises that he will keep giving his all to support him. The next moment they are both in the truck and the guy is all dripped up again. This makes our boy a bit nervous, and he asks him if he can drive slowly this time. As expected, the driver speeds up even more, saying it's his turn to repay the favor. A few tears roll down Kim's face as he accepts his fate. As they continue driving through the abandoned city, the guy keeps yapping. Meanwhile, our boy is exhausted and just wants this road to end. But almost immediately, the driver spots something ahead that chills him. The road is blocked by heavy military barricades. Spikes are buried in the ground to shred tires, and sprinklers are set up as if ready for use. He mutters that there used to be a military base nearby and wonders if soldiers are still here. The hero checks the side mirror and shakes his head. The vehicles and weapons may be military, but the people operating them clearly are not. Behind them, a military jeep comes into view. Our boy knows that it's been following them for some time, so they won't be able to just avoid it. He says he'll open a portal under the steering wheel and tells the guy to move into subspace. The driver hesitates, asking if he can really handle this alone, but the hero assures him that it's all good. The men casually get out with their weapons in hand. One of them complains that the driver ruined the trap by stopping too soon, before the spikes could burst the tires. The hero tries to ask what's going on, but the man only mocks him, ordering him out of the vehicle and demanding that he open the cargo. His tone is rough and threatening, but Kim complies. When the supplies inside are revealed, the men are overjoyed thinking they've hit the jackpot. One of them sneers, asking if he is some kind of delivery boy and whether the goods really belong to him. When he calmly says they do, the man laughs cruelly and declares that from this moment on, everything belongs to them. Our boy quickly realizes what these men are after. The one leading them puts on a serious face and demands to know where he got everything. The hero admits it came from a logistics center, but explains that even if he gave them the location, they wouldn't make it since all the roads are blocked. He only reached here after a long detour. Still, he offers to guide them personally if they want. The man narrows his eyes and asks how much food remains there. Our boy says he only brought a little with him, but there's much more left at the center. Suspicious, the man presses him, asking if he's telling the truth. The hero assures him he is. Before the conversation can continue, another soldier reminds the leader that it's time to move. The man nods, mutters that they have no choice, and orders his men to catch him. Before Kim can do anything, they start beating him up and cover his face with a cloth. When he regains awareness, he finds himself bound to a chair, treated like a prisoner. The men announce his capture to their commander. Just a look around and our boy can tell this place is no good. The fat commander asks him once again where he got all the food from. He reveals that he got it from the Gunpo Logistics Center, and the commander praises his choice, calling him smart. He then goes on to explain that they are in a military communications headquarters. After a bit, they see some huge wyverns flying outside the window. The fatty claims that he is strong, yet he almost died to one of them. Initially, the military tried fighting these monsters using weapons, but they failed. Then they decided to hire people like him to fight them. However, after joining the military, he realized that they were a lot more weaker than the monsters. This is when he decided to take over. The reason he is still alive is because he can take them to the food supplies. After explaining everything, the fatty offers to protect him from the monsters and make him part of their group if he gets them those supplies. When he finishes yapping, Kim calmly whispers to himself that he was looking for something he could store inside his subspace. Without hesitation, he gives the order for Pax to store the Joint Command Communications headquarters. The next moment, the entire headquarters vanishes, and both of them are sitting out in the open. Soldiers and gang members alike stare at the empty space where the building once stood. Their commander paces, stunned and muttering that he cannot understand how an entire structure could disappear. Meanwhile, our boy feels a sudden physical backlash. He vomits blood and worries that storing large things in subspace causes dangerous side effects. Outside, panic spreads. Soldiers tremble as a swarm of wyverns approaches, led by a massive, terrifying wyvern. The gang leader tries to rally his men, insisting they must take down the smaller wyverns first, but his crew breaks and runs. He is left furious and alone, calling them traitors. The giant wyvern swoops in and, after a moment of scanning the area, fixes its attention on our boy. At roughly the same time, he receives a system notice asking permission to admit a wounded soldier into subspace. He accepts. The injured man is the soldier he rescued earlier. He is weak and dizzy from the side effects, and he thinks that next time he must be more careful about what storing things does to his body. The gang leader tries to attack the wyvern with full force, boasting about his strength, but the beast kills him in a single strike. Our boy ignores him and carries the injured soldier to a bed inside subspace. He and the driver guy check the wounds and, with no medical expertise, can only hope the man recovers on his own. From the wounds and the soldier's condition, they suspect gang torture and prolonged malnutrition rather than a single brutal assault. Their conversation turns to the new communication headquarters building he put inside the subspace. The driver guy confirms what he suspected, telling him that the area around the logistics center has indeed expanded, and the new structure looks like a very large military base. Kim had been blindfolded when taken inside earlier, so he never saw its full size, but now seeing the real thing, he realizes just how huge it is. He asks Young-soo to watch over the soldier and decides to explore. The base is far too big to move through on foot, so he borrows a bicycle to travel faster. He realizes the place is full of guns, ammo, explosives, vehicles, and gas masks. It's exactly what survivors need in this world. But unlike the logistics center where PAX handles inventory and shipment, this base is organized into departments. Weapons here, magazines there, explosives in another wing. He will have to physically fetch items from different sections and assemble them manually. That complexity worries him, as he believes that supplies here are finite, not infinite like the warehouse. The AI drone suddenly hovers overhead and speaks, explaining that the subspace program is linked to the logistics center and that PAX still controls parts of the system. The drone says the sector he just added is being integrated and will be treated like part of the warehouse. The hero asks if rifles and ammo can be duplicated and shipped like items from Sector 1. The drone confirms that is the goal, but the classification process is only 0.81% complete. If the hero needs something urgently, the drone offers to prioritize and code specific items first. Our boy requests rifles, ammo, grenades, vehicles, and fuel. The drone acknowledges the order and says priority coding has begun. Within 10 minutes, those items will be available. As a safety measure, he asks the drone to lock access, so only he can use the items. The drone confirms that restriction is possible. He trusts the driver guy and his family, but he also has a soldier in the subspace, so he can't be too careless. Before leaving the base interior, he peers outside through the portal and sees corpses scattered everywhere. Kim mutters that the problem outside is far from solved, since there are still too many wyverns. Moreover, he isn't planning on letting the giant one go this time. The scene shifts as the group prepares themselves. The driver guy recalls his military days, thinking back to the time when his shooting skills were sharp. He wonders if after so many years he still has that ability. Meanwhile, our boy sets out boxes of magazines, explaining that each one holds at least 10,000 rounds. Even if a gun fails, he should simply discard it and grab another. The system had unfortunately registered the magazines separately from the guns, making things more cumbersome. For his own sake, he asks the guy if he knows how to shoot. My man simply picks up a gun, telling him that he would rather show than explain. He starts firing continuously, unleashing a relentless wave of bullets. The wyverns start falling one after the other. The two of them pause to take a break since all the wyverns appear to have died. However, our boy knows that something is off since he can't see the corpse of the big wyvern anywhere. He reminds them that the corpse of the massive wyvern is nowhere to be seen. Outside the portal, the giant wyvern lurks silently, lying in wait for an ambush. It even tests the portal, but fails to enter without the hero's permission. Suspicious, the driver guy examines the fallen bodies but finds nothing hidden. Kim then proposes a test. Instead of stepping out blindly, they can use a remote-controlled decoy. If the monster attacks, they will know it is still waiting and start shooting. They build a dummy, place it on a remote control car, and send it out. The moment it rolls through, the giant wyvern strikes instantly. The driver guy prepares to shoot, but when he actually locks eyes with the monster, he freezes in shock. The wyvern hammers at the portal in frustration but cannot break through. Our boy shouts for the guy to snap out of his fear and join the attack. Shaken, he obeys, and together they pour gunfire into the wyvern. But even after countless bullets, the monster stands unharmed. Our boy remembers the words of the fake commander who told him that his attacks weren't working on the dragon, as if something was blocking them. Even now, it doesn't seem like the bullets are being stopped by the hard skin, but something else. The wyvern roars again, furious. At that moment, a grenade rolls at its feet. The MC wants to test if overwhelming explosions will break through the defense. He throws grenade after grenade, duplicating them endlessly, while his friend joins in. For a long while, the air shakes with non-stop detonations. At last they pause as their muscles give up. The two wait for the smoke to clear, hoping to see the wyvern dead, but when the dust clears, the giant wyvern is still standing. The only mark left is a faint scratch on one claw, which it raises mockingly as if to show how useless their efforts have been. My man can't believe how this monster can withstand a brutal assault. Then, to his shock, the beast simply turns and walks away. The driver guy wonders aloud if it truly left. Our boy is still uneasy, and thinks the retreat isn't because of them, but for some unknown reason. In any case, now that the monster is gone, they can continue moving. While driving in their military jeep, the guy admits that he has never seen anything so huge. Kim agrees, disturbed by the memory of the grenades doing almost nothing. He reflects that grenades are meant to kill instantly, yet against this beast, they barely made a dent. He thinks about stronger explosives and bombs that could destroy entire cities, but using them would risk countless innocent lives. Even then, there's no guarantee such monsters would die. If he went that far, others might see him as a villain worse than the creatures themselves. He realizes he needs an ideal weapon, something as powerful as a bomb but targeted, fast and precise, causing minimal collateral damage. For now, grenades remain his best option, but he must keep improving his powers to prepare for even stronger foes. Checking his system, he finds he has gathered 314 mana stones from the endless waves. The number shocks him as it's far more than he expected. Using them wisely, he begins to strengthen his abilities. He increases his launching speed from 100 to 150 km/h, reduces his shipping time from 5 seconds to 1, expands his simultaneous shipping capacity from 2 items to 4, and doubles his launching range from 25 meters to 50. Even after these costly upgrades, he still has 189 stones left. There's one thing that he has his eyes on. He quickly uses 50 mana stones to unlock the Parallel Dimension Lab. To test it, he asks his driver buddy to park the car so they can rest and experiment with his latest power. The driver guy studies the road ahead and points out that Gangnam isn't far now. Since there are no monsters nearby, he suggests Kim should enter the portal while he keeps driving. Our boy hesitates, thinking it sounds risky, but the driver guy assures him he isn't tired at all and can drive easily. To ease his concern, he proposes keeping the portal open inside the car. That way, while the car moves forward, the portal will move with it, and if anything dangerous happens, he can jump inside instantly. Hearing all this, our boy jumps inside the portal and starts exploring his new lab. As he explores, a screen appears with options. The first option is Combine, allowing him to merge 2 or more items regardless of their physical condition. The second option, Separate, lets him divide any object into parts without destroying the material. A third option remains locked. Our boy immediately imagines the possibilities. He could merge a gun and a magazine into one complete weapon. He could even remove parts safely like a grenade safety pin without triggering it, since objects inside his pocket dimension obey only his commands. To test this, he registers a grenade without its pin, spending 15 mana stones. It may not be enough to crush a massive wave, but it's still a useful tool. Then a better idea strikes him, merging 2 magazines into one to double the bullets, or perhaps combining different objects to craft entirely new weapons. Something more powerful than a bomb, but with a smaller damage radius. Meanwhile, outside, the driver guy stops in front of a barrier made of cars. He stares in disbelief, wondering how anyone could build such a wall. At that moment, our boy steps out of the portal and notices the huge barrier ahead. The driver guy suggests turning back, but he shakes his head, insisting that the barrier isn't a problem anymore, because he has created a new weapon. Without warning, a massive object shoots from Kim's portal and slams into the barricade. The impact unleashes a series of violent explosions. Cars fly apart, scattering like toys, and within moments the road is completely clear. The driver guy is stunned, unable to believe what he just saw. His weapon is nothing more than several heavy iron rings launched at 150 km/h, but the sheer force makes them devastating. The noise alarms the guards inside the building. They argue about whether the barricade really fell, but when they look, they see a military vehicle approaching. The car screeches to a stop in front of them. Through the rolled-down window, our boy calmly asks if Nurse Ju-yeon works here. The scene shifts to a memory of his childhood. His sister Sol runs at him with her usual dramatic moves, landing a kick, while their eldest sister studies quietly nearby. Irritated by the noise, she scolds them for disturbing her concentration. Her sudden seriousness shocks her siblings as she had never cared much for studying before. When their mother asks if something is wrong, she tells her that it's nothing and she has simply found her dream. She holds up a novel, The Apple Tree Story, and declares her desire to become a nurse, someone who helps the sick even if the world ends tomorrow. At first, the family doubts her, but her determination proves real. Over time, her grades rise, and eventually she is admitted to nursing school. Back in the present, she finally sees her brother again. Tears fill her eyes as she checks him over, worried if he's hurt. Kim cries even harder, relieved that she has survived. The siblings embrace tightly after so many years apart. After calming down, he introduces the driver guy, telling her that he helped him along the way. The sister suddenly remembers she has a chocolate bar and tries to offer it, but our boy laughs and declines, explaining that his subspace already has more chocolate than he could ever eat. Instead, he leans close and whispers that he has a patient. The word instantly changes her expression, and she demands to know where the patient is. He explains that the patient isn't physically here but inside his ability's subspace. Surprised, she realizes that her brother is also an awakened. He nods and says he needs to open the door discreetly, away from watching eyes, so no one suspects. He thinks for a moment and suggests they go inside the hospital instead. They should be able to find a quiet corner or an empty room there where he can safely open his portal. So he brings his sister into the hospital. The building is still full of patients, just as it had been before the world changed. Eventually, they step into a staff room, and the driver guy quickly closes the door behind them. At last, he opens his portal and takes his sister inside. Like anyone who steps into it for the first time, she is shocked by the huge buildings in front of her. She asks what all this, but he simply tells her that he will explain it all later. He leads her to the injured soldier, and after her initial analysis, she shakes her head and says he won't survive. Her words shock both her brother and the driver guy, but then she explains that things are a little different, because she herself is also an awakened. Her ability is healing. Her level is still low, so she cannot cure him fully, but she can at least stabilize him so he doesn't die. She has already given him some first aid. What he needs now is food and nutrition to slowly recover his strength. With a smile, he reminds her of the time she once said she would still heal the sick even if the world ended tomorrow. She gets annoyed that he brought up such a childish memory and says that she should have disciplined him properly like his other sister. After taking care of the patient, she asks him to explain everything properly. So he begins telling her his whole story, how the system appeared, how he awakened, the people he met, the battles he fought, and how he finally reached this place. While listening, his sister happily eats the food in front of her. Our boy notices that she seems more focused on eating than listening, so he asks if she is paying attention. She insists she is, but when he tests her, she repeats only half of what he told her. Soon after, she meets the driver guy's wife, Yu-jung, who welcomes her warmly. She praises her cooking, which makes the wife smile with pride. The wife mentions that she even prepared a bed upstairs for her to rest, though Kim tries to protest that she didn't need to. She insists that she did it because she wanted to. Once she leaves, the sister turns back to our boy and asks how he met this family. Kim sighs and says he already explained, but to summarize, his goal now is to bring his entire family into his subspace. He has already managed to bring her here, and next he plans to bring their other sister. For that, he needs to travel to the Uljiro. At this point, his suddenly says she cannot go with him. He is shocked and asks why. She explains that she must stay here because this hospital shelters around 300 patients who constantly need care, treatment, and medicine. Other nurses can help, but the real issue lies deeper. The scene shifts to the upper floor of the hospital where two men are discussing the hero's arrival. One confirms that after the explosion outside, a military vehicle entered and immediately asked for Nurse Ju-yeon. The guy in charge turns out to be Jin Seong-hak, the head of the internal medicine department. After hearing all this, he decides they are probably not enemies. He says they should offer food and shelter to his group, but keep control of supplies and make strategic use of his sister. The guy looks back at a huge muscular man and asks if those guys are stronger than him. The big guy appears done with his yapping. He still replies that it's unlikely. They also mention the barricade outside. The big man explains that he already rebuilt it, piling the vehicles even higher than before, showing just how powerful he is. Back in our hero's subspace, his sister quietly reveals what worries her most. She suspects the department head is controlling people by poisoning them. She believes the man has some sort of ability tied to poison, strong enough to turn others into his slaves. With the exception of herself, Almost every awakened person here has already fallen under his influence, working for him in food preparation or managing mana stones. She swallows her food and explains that she suspects some of the other nurses may also have been poisoned. Quietly, she has been stealing mana stones to strengthen herself, but her level is still too low to cure or free anyone from the poison. That is why she wants to stay in the hospital. She insists that he should go instead, gather their parents and the other sister into his subspace, and once she figures out a way to endure here, she will join him later. Our boy refuses immediately, which makes her frustrated. He explains to her that if poison is hidden in the food, then the solution is simple and he can resolve it easily. The sister is stunned by his sudden confidence. She even mutters that he must have gone crazy again, like back in school, but her disbelief turns into shock when he reveals a massive amount of food and supplies, far more than she ever imagined he had. It doesn't take long for the news to reach Jin, the head of the internal medicine department. He dismisses it considering it unimportant, but when a subordinate mentions that they brought plenty of food, he smirks. He assumes it can't be much since they came here in one military vehicle. Sooner or later, their food will be stolen, and they will come begging to him for help. But his smugness disappears when the subordinate insists that the newcomers actually have more food than the hospital's entire storage. The hospital had collected its supplies with a whole truck, and yet these two carried even more. The only explanation, he reasons, must be a special ability, perhaps something that shrinks containers or restores them later. Whatever it is, he decides he must bring them into his team. The man then gives his subordinate a drug and orders him to make the big guy who serves him feed it to our boy. If he refuses or resists the addiction, the big guy can kill him on the spot. He also mentions that the other guy who came with him should also be dealt with. The story shifts back to Kim inside the hospital. He distributes food to the patients while quietly scanning the crowd. Right now, he is searching for someone specific. Kim had asked his sister about the abilities of those under Jin's control. She admitted that most of them were harmless except for one. She warned him about the big guy named Song Hyungu. He was so strong that even in these dangerous times, he had traveled alone from Iljiro just to check on his mother's health. She told Kim that the massive barricade of cars outside the hospital was his doing, and he had stacked them with his bare hands. Back in the present, it doesn't take long for our boy to come face to face with the big man. Just a single look, and he can tell this is the guy his sister was talking about. The big guy walks over to him and says that he wants to talk. Our boy smiles, claiming that he also had some business with him. The two decide to take it outside, where the big guy declares that our boy has only two choices. He can either drink the medicine he hands him, or die on the spot. Our boy realizes this was why Big Daddy lured him out here, where escape would be impossible. Instead of choosing, he smirks and declares a third option. He plans to trap the guy. Enraged, the man charges at him with terrifying speed. But our boy retreats into his subspace, blocking his attack. Before the big guy can react, a bowling ball hits him in the chest at a terrifying speed. Kim doesn't want to hurt him badly, so he is going easy on the speed. However, in order to bring him down, he needs to continue firing. While the guy struggles to get up, our boy seizes the chance. He quickly constructs a giant tower around him, sealing him inside. This makes him relieved, since he was able to capture the big guy without seriously hurting him. He goes back inside the hospital where his sister approaches, asking where he had gone. He begins explaining that he just came back after encountering the big guy, and points outside. When she looks out the window, she is shocked to see him trap and asks how he did it. Just then, the driver guy arrives, holding his head and groaning from a sudden headache. The sister immediately recognizes the symptoms, as it's the same drug they have been trying to cure in others. But the guy swears he never ate anything himself, only distributed the food. A moment later, Juyeon spots blood dripping from his finger and realizes the truth. Someone deliberately poisoned him while he was handing out food. Our boy wastes no time. He pulls the driver guy into his subspace to ask him to rest for now. However, the strangest thing happens as he steps inside and his headache disappears instantly. Kim quickly understands that his ability itself has broken the drug's influence since the system doesn't allow any outside energy to enter the subspace. Testing this theory, he pulls the big guy into his subspace and then sends him back out. Just as he expected, the doctor's control over him shatters. Free at last, the man rushes to embrace his sick mother, the one he had fought so hard to protect. With tears in his eyes, he apologizes to the hero for his earlier hostility, grateful that his ability helped him regain at least part of his true self. Fueled by rage and relief, he vows to settle the score with the doctor, who had kept him and his mother apart for so long. The scene then shifts to Jin as he stares out his window, realizing in shock that his grip on his minions has been severed. When the big guy storms into the room, he desperately demands answers, clinging to the foolish hope that loyalty remains. But the man's fury is written all over his body, leaving no doubt about what will happen. The doctor knows it too and makes one last effort to save his life by politely asking the big guy to spare him. Bro gets crushed like a walnut the very next moment. Meanwhile, our boy and his sister discuss how to cure the patients who have become dependent on the doctor's drugs. The medicine has created an addiction, and the problem now is how to free them completely. He suggests a bold idea: Ordinary medicine won't work, but his subspace has proven effective. Since Youngsu's symptoms vanished inside, bringing all the patients into his subspace might be the safest solution. Before they can act, though, they notice something unexpected as the patients are slowly beginning to recover on their own. As they watch in surprise, the big guy returns. He tells them that everything has already been taken care of. His words, combined with the sight of the recovering patients, are enough for the hero to imagine the doctor's grim end. The man thanks him once again, speaking on behalf of himself and his mother, because without him, neither of them would have been freed. When he shares where he plans to go next, the man warns him of danger ahead. On his way to the hospital, he had seen something unusual, a giant wall rising from the earth. Though he couldn't measure it exactly, he believed it to be as tall as a building. With such size, traveling through the city by road had become impossible. Ordinary tools could never break through it. It would take immense energy and time, a fact that needed no further explanation. Our boy knows his path won't be easy. The monsters in this new area are different from the ones he has faced before. From the big guy's account, most of them are skeletons and undead beings. This unsettles him because such creatures don't really die and they always rise again. Even after hearing all this, Kim isn't really concerned for his other sister since she is a monster herself. Suddenly he hears his sister's voice from inside his subspace. She informs him that the injured man they had rescued earlier has regained consciousness. Soon the scene shifts to the soldier inside the facility. He expresses gratitude to him for saving his life and introduces himself. Our boy checks on his condition, and when the soldier asks about their location, he explains that they are inside his subspace. This confuses the soldier, since the military base he served at was supposed to be here, but he sees no trace of buildings or roads. At that moment, the elder sister clarifies everything, explaining exactly where they are. When the soldier learns they are near Gangnam City, he asks to be dropped there. At first, the MC and the driver guy think the man might be suspicious, worried they might harm him. But the soldier quickly assures them that he holds no doubts since they saved his life, and for that reason, he trusts them completely. His request is not out of fear but urgency. He must get to the Joint Chiefs of Staff HQ and report everything that happened at the communication center. Realizing how serious this is, the hero offers him food and asks him to share what he knows. The soldier initially hesitates but quickly folds over some pizza. He explains how one day outsiders began appearing in their world. These weren't just monsters like the hero had seen before. They included bizarre insects, strange animals, and even alien trees. The land itself started changing, as if mountains and terrain from another world were merging with theirs. The creatures were extremely dangerous, attacking anyone in sight and sometimes even turning against their own. Weapons were useless against most of them, so the government began recruiting awakened people and formed special teams to handle the threat. These teams made real progress, and for a while their region stabilized. But then a certain beast appeared and things worsened again. Soon, more and more monsters emerged that regular weapons couldn't harm. Desperate, they sent repeated wireless requests for aid to the command center. None were answered. With no support coming, they hired awakened people on their own and marched toward the command center. But when they reached it, they found the place deserted. Records revealed a rebellion had taken place and the command center was emptied out. From there, the situation spiraled. Some of the awakened they had hired betrayed them, and the land became overrun with monsters. The military was split in two, one side loyal to the government, the other siding with the rebels. The rebels blocked government relief efforts and twisted the chaos into justification for their revolt. For the soldier, getting this information to his commander is a matter of life and death. The hero assures him that he understands, though he admits he cannot take him all the way to Gangnam. Instead, he promises to bring him as close as possible to the command center before parting ways. The hero and the driver then explain their planned route and where they will drop him off. After telling him to rest, our boy opens the portal and the driver guy prepares to leave with him. The soldier casually watches while wondering if the two of them came across the giant dragon, since they were the ones who saved him. He gets his answer soon enough as he witnesses an ogre standing right outside the portal. Just as he screams to warn them, the ogre gets blasted by one of Kim's heavyweight bullets. The soldier quickly realizes who he is dealing with. However, this is not all as our boy casually ships a military vehicle out the subspace. He looks back and informs him that they'll keep the portal open for him so he can see what's going outside. Meanwhile, the guy is too stunned to even hear a word. The two of them continue blasting monsters as they move while the soldier sits in the back seat watching. He finally starts to realize that he isn't dreaming, and this is actually real. Just when the guy decides it's time to head back inside the portal, they run into a problem. Turns out, the bridge in front of them is busted. Our boy apologizes, telling him that it might take them longer than they initially thought. The soldier, however, doesn't care since they are already ahead of time by a long shot. It's all thanks to Youngsu's incredible driving skills. Bro literally two-wheel Arabic-style maneuver and clears every obstacle known to man. Even the destroyed bridge is no challenge for him. However, they still don't know how they are going to get over that massive wall. For the time being, they decide to continue driving and drop the soldier along the way. When they finally bring him close to the command center, the soldier tries to persuade them to join the military. He explains that awakened people are being supported by the government with technology and monostones to help them grow stronger. Our boy, however, refuses. He makes it clear that his family comes first, and he and the driver are capable of collecting stones on their own. Still, he has an idea. He asks if the chief of staff has a helicopter. The soldier confirms that it's possible. The hero's plan is simple. Instead of crossing the massive wall that blocks the road into the next city, he intends to fly over it with a helicopter. Together, they enter the command center. The chief is in his office going over their current situation as most of their divisions have been lost. Suddenly, a soldier walks into the room and informs him that the leader of the DCC's 50th Signal Battalion wants to talk to him. Apparently, he is the only one who survived in his battalion. Hearing this, the chief immediately calls for the soldier. After meeting the chief, the man hands him the document about the coup. He also explains how Kim and the driver had saved him. The chief of staff listens carefully, then invites them upstairs. He thanks them for their efforts, saying their actions not only saved a soldier, but also helped the country. When the hero asks for a helicopter, he offers food, water, and supplies in return. The chief says the helicopter is indeed possible, but with one condition: he cannot give it freely since it is a strategic asset. If the hero joins the military as an awakened fighter, then everything he needs will be provided. The government itself may not even be stable anymore. The collapse outside has grown worse, and resources are scarce. That is why he so desperately needs the hero's help. With someone like him, perhaps balance could be restored. Our boy rejects the offer once more. For now, his only concern is protecting his family. Without his agreement, the chief refuses to hand over the helicopter. Yet, as the hero walks away calmly, showing no frustration or hesitation, the chief feels uneasy. He knows the man before him is far too valuable to let go so easily. So, he presents another offer. He explains that a group of awakened soldiers is trapped at Seoul Station, surrounded by countless skeleton monsters. They still manage to send signals, but they cannot break free. The chief asks him to rescue them. If he succeeds, the helicopter will be his. Even though the skeleton monsters come back to life after being killed, there is one way to make sure they stay on the ground. All of them have a core inside, and once that core is destroyed, a skeleton cannot come back to life. This sounds easy enough for our boy, and he heads into the skeleton territory with a bunch of military trucks. They continue smashing the skeletons with his ability until they finally reach the awakened soldiers. The trucks then successfully rescue the soldiers. While making their way back, our boy thinks about what the chief told him earlier. Even though his ability is effective against the smaller skeletons, there is a rare skeleton called the Skeleton Knight, which might be an exception. The chief had warned him to stay away from that skeleton. Of course, our boy doesn't listen and shoots a 200-kilo bullet at the skeleton on first sight. To their surprise, the skeleton uses his sword to cut clean through the bullet. The next scene reveals the shock of the soldiers and the military. The Skeleton Knight does something no one expected. It tries to speak. At first, its words are incomprehensible, but then it uses a strange magical item, and suddenly its language becomes clear to everyone. The boss monster introduces itself as Gwaine, one of the 12 knights who serve the Night King. Our boy quickly notices that Skeleton Knight has crushed magic stones to cast a spell, making his words understandable to humans. The skeleton questions him, asking if he is a mage bold enough to challenge him, and why humans are so eager to intrude in his territory. He even comments on human impatience, calling this only the first stage of something he calls the Establishment Project. But before the skeleton can continue, our boy suddenly launches an attack. The Skeleton Knight blocks easily, but our hero doesn't let up. Without responding to his words, he keeps striking again and again. None of his attacks land a real blow, yet he manages to study the skeleton's movements and fighting style. Deciding to push further, he spends 50 stones to upgrade his ability and unlocks a new skill, Tracking Delivery. With this skill, he can ship items to strike in a precise sequence. The relentless assault continues until the monster finally reacts in anger, a sign that his efforts are actually hurting him. Using what he learned from the chief of staff earlier, he orders Pax to target the monster's magic core with plates. He continues changing the direction of the attack, hitting the monster from all angles. Seeing all the damage, the driver guy thinks they are safe for now. However, our boy is still tense and mentions that the Skeleton Knight seems even stronger than the giant wyvern. At last, his relentless bombardment cracks its hard bones start to break. Our boy decides to use this chance and commands the AI to ship stacks of plates from all directions at the same time. This is enough to destroy the knight's core. Before dying, Gwaine mutters his final words, warning him that this battle doesn't end here, and he will give everything he has left for the Skeleton King. Our hero then gathers the loot he leaves behind, 2 large mana stones and 1 enchant stone. Everyone who witnesses the fight is stunned. Our boy has just slain a boss monster the chief of staff himself had advised him to avoid. Even the chief is shocked, but deeply impressed. He urges him and the driver once more to join the army, admitting he already sees them as comrades. Like before, the hero declines his offer, urging that his family comes first. Hearing this, The chief says that once he reunites with his family, he hopes he will reconsider the offer, because the country desperately needs people like him. Our boy understands, but he feels like the chief is expecting too much from him. The fight with the skeleton knight just now was much harder than he imagined. If there was another monster like it, he would have lost for sure. What troubles him more than the offer is what the skeleton knight revealed. If this knight was only one of 12, then 11 more powerful monsters are still out there. The danger is far from over. Adding to the strangeness, his heavyweight bullets proved useless against the skeletons, while bizarre methods like throwing bowling balls seemed far more effective. Even our boy can't make sense of it since it goes against the laws of physics. The chief of staff then warns him about his destination. He explains that they had once sent people to investigate that area, but the rising wall cut them off completely. No one has returned since. Still, aerial vehicles sent occasionally confirm that communication remains active, so the people trapped inside are at least alive. He reassures him that if his family is there, they are still safe. Our boy already knows who lives in that walled-off area. It's none other than his second eldest sister. Compared to the monsters from another world, she's almost a monster herself. The chief also mentions that during their survey, they also discovered that the upper part of the wall was starting to grow inward, as if to form a roof. He says that it's a good thing he's getting the helicopter now since the wall hasn't completely closed off yet. After this, the chief of staff shows Kim and the driver the helicopter prepared for them. Our boy looks ahead to see an old broken-down helicopter, but he thinks it's fine as long as the helicopter can fly. However, the chief points to a different, much better Black Hawk, and reveals that this is what they are getting. Considering what he has already done for the country, this is the least they can offer. He admits he already sees him and the driver guy as close allies and wants them to realize how important they are for everyone's survival. Right then, the driver guy sees a system window for the very first time in his life. It tells him that he can unlock the ability to pilot this helicopter if he spends 50 mana stones. His unique skill, the driving goat, allows him to operate any vehicle with ease. Unlike our boy though, he has no concept of leveling up. Instead, whenever he wants to use a new vehicle, he just has to register it with mana stones, and then he can drive it forever. The chief of staff then hands over a suitcase filled with stones. He admits that he had planned to give it to them as a gift when they got on the helicopter, but now feels this is the right moment. Inside are 200 mana stones. The driver guy takes just 50, enough to unlock the helicopter skill, and passes the rest back to our boy. Overjoyed, the driver guy is eager to test out his new ability. Soon, both of them climb aboard the helicopter and begin preparations for takeoff. The driver guy makes a terrifying expression and claims that he knows how to fly the helicopter now. Our boy begs him to go slower this time, but he refuses like always. This makes our boy cry as he knows how harsh this ride is going to be. While his friend gets the helicopter ready, he checks the notifications from his subspace. He sees that he still has 2 large mana stones and 1 enhancement stone. Since each large stone equals 100 normal stones, his total now reaches 1,393. It's still a lot more than he expected. He immediately spends 1,000 stones to upgrade his subspace, though he remains uncertain about how to use the enchantment stone he received after defeating the skeleton knight. The system explains that this stone carries the fire attribute. Its fire level is low, but it still grants 2 special effects: penetration and ignition. The description also clarifies the difference between ordinary stones and enchantment stones. Both share the same origin, but enchantment stones carry unique properties. When fused with a weapon, they transform it into a magical weapon. The exact effect depends on the stone's attribute and level of power. For instance, if he fused the fire stone with an automatic gun, the bullets would turn into flaming rounds. But he hesitates. He only has 1 enchantment stone, and using it carelessly would be a waste. After thinking it through, he chooses not to use it on a gun or a grenade launcher. Instead, he decides to enhance the one weapon that has already proven effective, the bowling ball. His iBuddy registers it as a unique item at his request. It makes perfect sense. The skeleton knight was unaffected by guns or explosives, but the bowling ball brought it down. With 11 more knights still out there, he believes it's wiser to strengthen the very weapon that works. Adding literal firepower to his bowling ball feels like the smartest move he can make. While he is busy looking at the system window, his friend tells him that they are ready for takeoff. Just then, another notification window pops up. The upgrade process for his subspace is complete, and several new functions are unlocked. Our boy stares at this new notification with horror in his eyes. The chief watches them as they fly off and wonders why he is making that expression. Turns out that he has some new unlockable skills now. All of them sound great, but what's changing his expression is the last skill. According to the description, unlocking that skill means that his subspace can register external objects as facility products, so long as they belong to categories he already owns like food, dairy, or military gear. Of course, none of this comes for free. Every action costs stones, and the price depends on the size, weight, or value of what he registers or resizes. On top of that, just unlocking the new functions already took 250 stones. Still, our boy knows these new powers change everything. Before, he could only use the fixed supplies and products from his logistics center or military base. Now he can collect, store, and use almost anything he finds in the world, and that's a complete game changer. At the moment, his subspace only has two categories: logistics center and military base. That limits him to items that fit into those types. But then our boy does something unexpected. He double-checks with the system, then registers the helicopter they're flying, the Black Hawk, under the military base category. Instantly, the helicopter becomes part of his facility, and right in front of the Chief of Staff's eyes, he pulls out 2 or 3 more Black Hawk helicopters from his subspace like it's nothing, then takes off. Meanwhile, we cut to the Skeleton King sitting inside a fortress deep within the massive wall. He explains that it doesn't make sense since entering this world requires an 8th tier permit. In simple terms, any high-level mage who wants to enter must lower their power before they're allowed in. That's exactly what he himself had to do, but he wonders, why would such a powerful mage agree to this, then come here and kill his people? From his view, the mage is none other than Our, who just killed one of his subordinates. To the Skeleton Lord, he looks like a great sorcerer who arrived early to claim this world before it fully opens to outsiders. That makes him extremely dangerous in his eyes, though he doesn't want to act too hastily yet. The crowned skeleton goes on, saying he regrets the Gwain's death, but it doesn't matter. They can create endless amounts of magic stones and enhancement stones. Once their harvest is complete, they'll leave behind what they don't need and focus entirely on killing that so-called sorcerer. But then one of his companions interrupts. He says he senses something entering their territory, though he can't tell what it is yet. The crowned skeleton waves it off, telling him to calm down. It's probably just weak humans like before. Besides, he adds, the roof is about to close, so wasting time on them isn't worth it. Back with our boy and his friend, they finally cross the massive wall and enter the inner zone. But the driver guy looks uneasy as he can't find a safe landing spot. He mentions that right below them, a skeleton knight is battling another monster, making it far too dangerous to land. Our boy looks down too, and what he sees stuns him. The one fighting the skeleton knight isn't a monster at all. It's his elder sister Soul. She sends the skeleton knight back with a powerful punch, yet it still does no damage at all. Our hero begins narrating the story of this second monster. As a child, she stumbles across mixed martial arts on TV and instantly falls in love with it. Luckily, she has a little brother who supports her obsession, or more accurately, serves as her practice dummy. Whenever she watches a fight, she tests the moves on him. But beating up her younger brother and other weak opponents isn't enough. She craves stronger challenges. She goes to the playground and fights anyone who dares to face her boys, girls, even kids 3 years older. Nobody can stop her. Seeing her talent, their father enrolls her in a martial arts academy. That's where she tastes her first defeat. Another fighter beats her easily, but instead of feeling crushed, she feels alive. For the first time, she has found a worthy challenge. As she grows, she wins multiple jiu-jitsu tournaments. By 7th grade, she dominates the junior division. Her passion for training turns into obsession. She pushes herself relentlessly, chasing perfection. But her drive comes at a price. Soul suffers major injuries, tearing ligaments in both legs. Impatient with recovery, she trains too early and hurts herself again. The cycle repeats: injury, recovery, relapse. Finally, at 24, she makes her professional debut. She could have started much earlier if not for her stubbornness. Hearing this, the driver guy is stunned. Our boy just tells him not to worry and suggests they land the helicopter carefully, but he still mutters under his breath, saying she looks more like a monster than a human. Meanwhile, on the ground, the skeleton knight steps toward her with his sword in hand and asks why his strikes keep missing. She mocks him, saying that his attacks are too slow. The knight insists he's just as fast as her and accuses her of using some secret technique. She explains that it isn't any technique, she can just read the stance of her opponent and the positioning of all their limbs. Her answer leaves the knight thinking as he realizes that he learned something new. Strangely, the skeleton knight compliments her. He says fighters like her are rare, and if she raises her rank, she could become the greatest knight of all. But she frowns in confusion as she has no idea what he means by knights or rankings. The knight goes on, saying he admires her. He promises to convince the Skeleton King to spare her life when the city falls. But before he can finish, a flaming bowling ball suddenly smashes into him and breaks him down into pieces. The fiery bowling ball rolls to a stop at the sister's feet. She stares at it in shock, wondering how this strange weapon managed to destroy the knight when even her martial arts couldn't. From the knight's remains, 2 large mana stones and an enhancement stone appear. But before she can touch them, they get sucked into a glowing portal. At the same time, a helicopter hovers overhead, slowly descending toward her. Our boy steps out with a smirk, greeting her in a playful tone. He teases her, noting that nothing has changed, and she is still as fierce as ever. Soul is shocked to see her little brother and can't believe her eyes. The scene shifts to a table filled with food. Kim and his eldest sister sit quietly, watching in amazement as she devours everything with feral hunger, as if she has not eaten in years. Unable to hold back her curiosity, the nurse sister finally asks if she uses some kind of special ability to boost her strength. She answers casually between bites, saying that she is half right and half wrong. Her strength, she explains, is natural and has nothing to do with the barrier. The girl keeps eating with such intensity that her sister eventually snaps, scolding her to slow down or risk choking. Our hero only laughs and tells her that she was the same when she first came here. He admits how relieved he is that all three of them awakened survival abilities and managed to endure so far. Yet he reminds them that one task remains, finding their eldest brother. At this, sister number 2 slows just enough to glance at him skeptically. She points out that his ability feels like a cheat code and questions how he can possibly do everything he has shown. He chuckles and brushes it off, saying it is a long story he will explain later. For now, he insists she eat and rest. He even shows her how to use the eye packs to order anything she needs, and mentions that she should also greet Yongsu's family when she can. She agrees with a nod, but quickly raises the question of whether they are truly leaving the city right away. He rises from his chair with a grave expression, confirming that they must. The ceiling is closing at a dangerous pace, and he is not sure if the fortress can protect the entire city. On top of that, he still needs to gather as many mana stones as possible before it seals completely. Looking up, he feels dread sink into his chest as the ceiling has already closed, plunging the city into complete darkness. Without hesitation, he boards the Blackhawk, takes off, and launches 5 blazing fireballs at the fortress walls. The attacks do 0 damage to the walls, and he knows that the roof is not opening anytime soon. He wonders if he should risk storing the entire city inside his subspace, but the idea feels reckless. Moving such a massive structure could bring unpredictable and catastrophic consequences. Worse still, he has already drained his remaining mana stones just to expand the portal's radius. From behind, he hears his sister mumbling. She recalls her encounter with the skeleton knight, wondering if he was telling the truth. Before his death, he told her that if she stayed in the city, she would die and offered to spare her life. Curious, Kim presses her for more, but she shrugs. That was all the knight had managed to say, before he smashed him into pieces. Hearing this, our boy realizes the hard truth. If they truly want to escape, he will have to confront the Skeleton King himself. The real challenge is figuring out where to find the Skeleton King in such a massive city. Before the hero can plan anything, the demon inside Yongsu awakens. With a wicked grin, he boasts that he only needs 5 minutes to locate the Skeleton King's castle. The hero senses the chaos about to unfold and tries to stop him, but it's already too late. The guy transforms into his demon form, laughing like a maniac. He then does something reckless. He flips the helicopter into a wild 360-degree spin and begins zigzagging through the skies, determined to scour every corner of the city. Meanwhile, in the Skeleton King's castle, Lancelot delivers grim news. He reports that the skeleton knight Lionel has been obliterated in a single strike by the mage's fireball. Enraged, the Skeleton King roars that the harvest is nearly complete, yet once again this intruder has disrupted his plans. His fury surges as he swears he will kill the hero personally. When he demands the intruder's location, the skeleton head calmly assures him there is no need to search because the enemy is already on his way. The Skeleton King lets out a chilling laugh. From his vantage point, he watches the approaching helicopter. At first, he mistakes the hero for some kind of wizard, but after taking a closer look, he mutters that this figure looks more undead than human. However, that doesn't matter now since his only focus is destruction. Whoever dares to challenge him, wizard, undead, or something else, will not leave alive. Meanwhile, a massive door creaks open inside the castle. Bat-like creatures cling to the walls, waiting to ambush any intruder. The hero stumbles into the chamber, pale and weak, still reeling from motion sickness. He mutters to himself that he will never step onto a helicopter again. Before he can recover, his sister notices movement behind him and bolts forward. A massive bat monster lunges at his neck with razor-sharp teeth. At the last moment, she strikes with devastating force, killing it in one blow. The impact snaps our boy of his dizziness, and though he quickly thanks her, she brushes it off and scans the room with sharp eyes. Something feels wrong. At first he sees nothing, but then countless red eyes begin to glow from the shadows, glaring at them. His heart sinks as he realizes how many enemies surround them. Urgently, he tells the driver guy to retreat into the subspace, knowing this battle is too much for him alone. But his sister is another story. A wicked grin spreads across her face as the swarm of monsters advances. To her, this is exactly what she wants. One monster would have been too boring. An army is far more exciting. With wild delight, she charges straight into the dark corridor. Her movements are both graceful and savage. She leaps high, lands with crushing force, and smashes a monster's skull beneath her foot. When one of the creatures sinks its teeth into her neck, she doesn't even flinch. Instead, she grabs its head and slams it into the ground so hard that it shatters instantly. The floor is soon drenched in blood, and her laughter echoes through the chamber, unhinged and terrifying. The remaining monsters falter, trembling in fear at her overwhelming ferocity. Our boy watches from the sidelines, torn between admiration and concern. He knows his sister thrives in battles like this, but he still wants to help her. Retreating into his subspace, he begins constructing a strange device, an electric pest repellent designed to draw the bat creatures in. When the machine powers up, it emits a strong current that pulls the monsters closer. One by one, they are caught and electrocuted to their deaths. The sister glares at the device and makes it clear she finds it boring since she wants to fight properly, not be lured with gadgets. She shouts at him, warning not to interfere, but he reminds her that this isn't a boxing match, and they need to take care of the monsters as soon as they can. Outside the chamber, a skeleton head reports to the Skeleton King that the so-called mage is not alone. A second fighter there matches the enemy's strength, and the wizard is using strange tools and seemingly endless resources. The Skeleton King grows irritated since defeating one wizard was bad enough, but facing another powerful opponent makes the situation much harder. He decides that it's time to summon the Skeleton Knight Lancelot with his full power. The Skeleton Knight warns that having a rank 7 in the Earth's dimension might draw the Chamber of Commerce's wrath, but the Skeleton King feels he has no choice. The wizard appears to be at least 8th tier, the same rank as the king, and he cannot handle two such opponents. He decides to summon Lancelot's full power. Chanting an old incantation, the king replaces the projection of his skull with 3 reinforcement stones, gathering a surge of mana to complete a powerful summoning. Meanwhile, inside the hero's subspace, the group is busy building a new weapon. Electric appliances and tangled copper wires lie everywhere as they wrap thick wire around an aluminum rod to craft an electric bat, a semi-rare weapon tuned to repel the bat monsters. When swings the bat to get used to it, and mentions that it almost seems like a cheat code to have this much stuff at his disposal, our boy reminds her that it's not that good since combining powerful items reduces their individual power. However, it's still semi-rare, so it's going to be effective. During all of this, he notices his sister continuously scratching her neck and asks her what's going on. She reveals that she got bit on the neck by one of the monsters. The bite hadn't hurt before, but after stepping out of the subspace, it's starting to itch again. Our boy hears this and feels uneasy, wondering if that change could somehow make her into something like a vampire. He even asks if she feels any urges to bite his neck, and she just wants to beat the crap out of him and nothing else. Suddenly they hear the Skeleton King's voice as he mocks the hero's reckless behavior and condemns anyone from the arcane dimension who dares intrude on his domain. He vows to fight and kill the interloper. Both siblings exchange a look, baffled by the king's rant. The king gives him one last chance to give a proper answer, but they both genuinely have no idea what he is talking about. Enraged, the Skeleton King commands Lancelot to attack at once, ordering him to eliminate them both without mercy. The reborn Skeleton Knight finally emerges from the summoning with newfound aura. Soul's eyes light up with excitement at the sight of him. After dealing with countless weak monsters, she finally has a worthy opponent. She warns our boy once more not to interfere, insisting the fight belongs to her. Before she can strike, Lancelot moves first. He lunges with lethal precision, swinging his colossal sword to cut her down. She reacts fast, dodging the deadly strike and blocking with her electrified bat. Realizing the danger, she pulls back just in time, but not fast enough. With one devastating swing, he shatters her electric bat in two. Our boy watches this in shock, wondering how a semi-rare weapon can break so easily. His sister tells him that it's not the bat that was weak, but it's their opponent who is strong. Across the room, the Skeleton King watches proudly, boasting about his most powerful knight. Our boy, however, reflects on his sister's rare admission. For her to acknowledge an enemy's strength means their opponent is truly on another level. He asks if he can take the mana stones after killing this guy since he is a bit short right now. His sister takes it as a challenge, and the two race to be the ones to kill the knight. Our boy starts first with his bowling balls, but the knight cuts them all with his sword. Then Sol moves in from the front. She manages to dodge his first attack and lands a couple of hits. At the same time, the hero blasts him with more bowling balls. However, when the Skeleton Knight stands back up, he is still unscratched. Kim immediately pulls himself and his sister into the subspace. Meanwhile, the Skeleton King orders his soldier to go after them. The sister seems pissed as she thinks that he's preventing her from getting the mana stones. He explains that it's not about the mana stones, but the guy they are facing is pretty dangerous. Knowing their previous attack did nothing, she questions if there is something they can do to break him. Suddenly, the knight charges forward with his sword, only to be blocked by the subspace barrier. Our boy decides to try attacking at close range from inside his subspace, but that too doesn't work. The Skeleton King seems to be getting bored and calls him dishonorable for hiding behind a barrier and shooting projectiles. He refers to our boy as the mage, and explains that the enemy he is facing is at 7th rank, and there is no way his attack will ever work on him. They will get sanctioned for this, but he was backed into a corner, so he had no other option. It was either this or dying at the hands of the mage. So the Skeleton King decided to gamble it all and risk getting sanctioned. However, he didn't expect such a disappointing performance from him. As the fight goes on, he notices that the bowling balls keep piling up outside the subspace. This makes him wonder how many items does the mage have. He also questions why isn't he using any magic since it would be more effective than simply using his limited items. Meanwhile, our boy is still thinking about how to defeat this skeleton knight. He doesn't really have enough mana stones to upgrade anything, so he has to kill him with what he has on hand. The only problem is that what he has doesn't work on this guy. Before the fight can go on, the Skeleton King intervenes and mentions that our boy isn't a mage, but a human who has the ability to copy items. He starts laughing almost like it's a relief to him. My man is just a mage hater. The king even orders his knight to withdraw and claims that they can work as potential partners. Understandably, both our boy and his sister are confused. The king explains that his entire castle is basically an item called Camelot that can produce enchantment stones in exchange of living things. These stones also have a special effect when used on certain items. For example, when used on Camelot, it allows the owner to summon and command all of the 12 knights, including Lancelot. Since he has the ability to duplicate items, the two of them can work together and gather unlimited stones. It might take some time for the castle to create stones, but once they get their hands on the first stone, they can immediately start duplicating. Hearing all this, our boy sheds some tears of happiness and thanks the guy for his idea. In the next moment, he orders Pax to store the entire castle inside his subspace. Before the Skeleton King can say anything, he is standing in the middle of the road, broke and homeless. Inside the subspace, the castle turns back into its original form and shrinks in size. Seeing it in the hands of the hero, the king loses it and attacks him with some whack magic spell. Meanwhile, our boy keeps a straight face and orders Lancelot, who is now under his command, to kill the Skeleton King for him. The knight quickly obeys and slashes the king in half using his sword. After being destroyed, the king disintegrates completely, leaving behind a small yellow crystal this time. The skeleton knight kneels and picks it up carefully. Just then, our boy receives a system notification. It announces that the Skeleton King's entire territory now belongs to him, along with every mana stone once in the king's possession. When he checks the total, his eyes widen as there are 3,086 mana stones. Even his sister is speechless at the sight of so many. He feels a rush of excitement, but it doesn't last. His sister crosses her arms and insists on taking half. Annoyed, he argues that it isn't fair. He admits she did save him, but he doesn't think that means she deserves half. Our boy points out that he also spent his own mana stones crafting her electric bat. After a short back and forth, he sighs and reluctantly offers her 500 stones instead. Saul looks unimpressed and asks if he really values her life less than a pile of mana stones. Our boy counters that she's safe inside his subspace anyway, so she doesn't need them. Finally, she accepts the 500 mana stones and then points toward Lancelot, asking what they should do about him. The skeleton knight steps forward and bows to the hero. He respectfully reports that the Skeleton King has been defeated, presenting the mana stone as proof. Moments later, we see Youngsu's daughter playing with the knight as if he was her personal toy. Our boy watches quietly, thinking that the little girl must have been bored living here. The knight bows politely, saying that serving the hero's allies brings him as much honor as serving him himself. Jisoo giggles as she taps his helmet, while her parents apologize for her playfulness, worried that she might be bothering him. The older sister smiles softly, noticing how Lancelot stays calm and protective, watching every move the little girl makes to keep her from falling or getting hurt. Despite his fearsome power, the knight's gentleness stands out. Then she changes the topic, asking our boy if their next stop is the Dobong. He nods and explains that his older brother lives there, so that's their next destination. The sister, however, looks worried. She advises him to rest first, pointing out that he's been using his powers nonstop. If he keeps pushing himself, he might collapse before they even arrive. She suggests they wait until morning before continuing the journey. He takes her words seriously and glances toward Yu-jung's family. They're laughing and playing together, with Jisoo's father promising to become a knight himself someday, so he can join in her adventures. The scene makes him smile softly, realizing how rare and precious these calm moments have become. He decides it's time to rest and finally get some proper sleep. The driver guy agrees and takes his daughter to sleep, telling him that they will at 6 in the morning. Our boy turns to his new skeleton soldier and says it's time to make a proper base for him as well. He takes out Camelot, his magical construct, and examines it carefully. The system reveals that Camelot can grow or shrink depending on how many mana stones are used, and it includes various useful functions for the future. He studies the options and focuses on what matters most. He notes that Camelot absorbs all the mana it's given and expands in size, but the system doesn't explain how many stones are required for specific growth. After a quick calculation, he decides to test it by using 300 mana stones, enough, he hopes, for 12 people to live comfortably. As soon as he feeds the stones into Camelot, the structure begins to glow brightly and expand. Within moments, it grows into a grand fortress, not quite the size of a city, but large enough for everyone to live in with ease. Satisfied, he nods, thinking that it's more than enough space for now. The sister is shocked at the size and wonders how many mana stones the Skeleton King must have put in to create a fortress the size of an entire city. The Skeleton Knight admits that he doesn't know the true number, but it's probably tens of thousands. Our boy realizes that the reason he didn't experience any side effects after putting his massive castle into his subspace was because it's originally small in size. Once everything makes sense, he turns to his sister and asks if she plans to rest. She shakes her head, saying she actually has a request for the night. She turns to the Skeleton Knight and asks if he can teach her his sword techniques. Our boy is a little surprised by her sudden request. Lancelot agrees but asks to learn her fist technique in return. Hearing this, she smirks and warns him that her training isn't easy. Her brother can't help smiling, knowing how excited she gets when it comes to martial arts. While the two of them start sparring, our boy quietly slips away to rest, feeling relieved that someone as skilled as Lancelot is now on their side. By morning, soldiers have gathered outside the portal since the barrier has vanished. They're busy coordinating and reporting back to their bases. From inside the subspace, our hero and the driver guy watch the scene unfold. The driver remarks that they weren't the only ones waiting for morning to get moving, but the hero frowns, sensing that something feels off. Moments later, a helicopter appears in the sky and lands right in front of the portal. Both of them stare in surprise as the door opens and a man steps out. It's the commander. He greets them calmly. Our boy nods in acknowledgement, remarking that they've met sooner than expected. The commander explains that as soon as he learned the city's barrier had vanished, he began searching for them throughout the night. He says he scoured the entire city until he finally found them. The hero, a little tense, asks if the commander came to pressure them into rejoining the force, but the man laughs and assures him that isn't the case. Instead, he's there to deliver urgent news that traveling by helicopter would be a terrible idea. The First Corps has taken full control of the Air Defense Command, and anything flying through the sky is immediately shot down. This shocks the hero and the driver guy. The commander then goes into detail about the chaos that has unfolded. After leaving their city, their unit started investigating the First Corps to track their movements, and they found out that they had already expanded into northern regions like Dobong, Seongbuk, and Gangbuk, all while destroying the capital's defense forces in the process. They sent drones in these areas to get an estimate about their numbers, but they all kept getting shot. This means that the First Corps has a strong air defense preventing them from moving in. This is why he came here to warn him since he heard he was moving to that region. He advises taking a longer route through Namyangju instead, but they don't really have much intel on that, so it's not guaranteed either. The hero sincerely thanks him, admitting that they had indeed planned to fly by helicopter, but now they'll change their plan. The commander smiles with relief, glad to have arrived in time to prevent disaster. Our boy knows that this is serious. His plan is to reach Weijongbu to his parents while stopping by his brother's place in Dobong. This detour means that he won't be able to visit his brother. He understands that the biggest threat now isn't the monsters, it's the rebels. They're far more dangerous and unpredictable. His family, his brother, sister-in-law, and parents are all trapped between two dangers: monsters on one side and rebel forces on the other. Our boy knows that unless the rebellion is crushed, nothing else will ever stabilize. He decides that sooner or later, he'll have to face the first unit head-on. He calls out to Lancelot and turns to the commander, confirming that he's the one who defeated the Skeleton King with the help of this knight. The commander starts to shiver as he stares at the massive knight, but Hero reassures him that there's no need for fear since the knight is now one of them. He explains that his brother's home lies in Dobong, so a conflict with the rebels is unavoidable. Instead of taking another route, he suggests using this knight and planning on destroying them at once. The commander's expression shifts from shock to excitement as he immediately agrees to his suggestion. Meanwhile, far away at the rebels' base, goblin-like soldiers stand guard. One holds an anti-aircraft weapon while another watches over a cage filled with captured humans. It becomes clear that the so-called soldiers of the first unit aren't humans at all, they're goblins. From a distance, a specter summoned by our boy observes everything. He watches the goblin camp carefully, counting their numbers, memorizing patrol routes, and noting where the human prisoners are held. His eyes narrow when he spots two figures, one of them a high-ranking officer with 3 stars on his uniform. They appear to be discussing something important, though the skeleton head can't make out the words. This is one of the 12 skeleton knights in spectral form summoned using Semelot. In spirit form, they lack a physical body, making them immune to normal attacks and able to pass through walls or travel unseen. Summoning this form requires 1 enchantment stone and 500 mana stones, the same amount needed to summon a knight in physical form. Once summoned, the knight can switch between forms without any additional mana stones. Lancelot's spirit form turns out to be the perfect choice as our boy can scout the enemies safely without risking his life. His mission is to map the rebel camp, count troops, locate anti-air guns, find special units, and mark where prisoners are held. After 2.5 hours of careful reconnaissance, the Spectre returns and reports everything he found. When he finishes his debrief, our boy listens in shock. The scout confirms that some soldiers have bodies mutated into goblins, and that the camp keeps roughly 200 humans locked in iron cages for sacrificial use. Lancelot adds that the guards mention someone important, a figure whose arrival will change everything, and he overheard references to a brigadier-level officer who seems to lead this area. He also counted 9 anti-air installations. The commander is stunned but not surprised. That level of security explains why no intelligence was leaking from the zone. His deeper worry is why civilians are being held captive. Our boy thinks it through, mentions that the soldiers must have joined the rebel forces willingly. What puzzles him most is the purpose behind imprisoning civilians, and who exactly is figure they keep mentioning. Lancelot explains that ranks can be raised by sacrificial rituals. Sacrificing life force from lower beings can shortcut the path to higher power. He suspects the camp is gathering people to make pacts with low-rank entities, and then harvest the resulting power to climb the hierarchy. In other words, they're trying to raise their rank by sacrificing people. The Skeleton Knight mentions that it's a sort of loophole for lower-ranked beings, and they might be in some kind of deal with a higher-ranked being. Whatever the case, the sister wants to attack immediately, insisting they should wipe the place out. Our boy replies that it's not that simple. The situation is far more complex. The commander supports that view. The Skeleton Knight's report is invaluable, but the defenders are heavily fortified, and if the rebels call in the first unit, any operation will escalate into full war. The first unit has unknown weapons and capabilities. If they intervene, the attackers will face overwhelming retaliation. That uncertainty makes any strike extremely risky. Despite the danger, the hero knows inaction isn't an option. Reinforcements will come to the enemy if they wait, and his brother's safety is a ticking clock. Delaying to coordinate with other units would take too long. The decision is hard, but he knows they need to move to seize the zone as soon as possible. Seeing his master's hesitation, Lancelot suggests that summoning another knight could solve their problem, especially one capable of dealing with the enemy's anti-air guns. The hero shakes his head, arguing that summoning a knight isn't easy since it requires enchant stones too. Currently, he does not have a single enhancement stone left. He even considers unsummoning him to retrieve his stone and then bringing him back again, but he knows that would be pointless. Sighing, he admits he can't duplicate enhancement or mana stones anyway, so there's no simple solution. Lancelot then reminds him of something he'd completely forgotten. After defeating the Skeleton King, he had actually obtained an enchantment stone. Our boy freezes, shocked. He doesn't remember receiving it at all. When the Skeleton Knight explains that he had handed it to him after the battle, Kim realizes with embarrassment that he must have lost track of it. Regaining focus, he asks which knight would be best to summon. Lancelot assures him that all 12 knights of Camelot are strong and loyal, but in this situation, Bedivere would be his best choice. This knight is not just an archer but also a true genius of long-range combat. This puts a smile on the hero's face and he immediately agrees to it. Meanwhile, at the enemy camp, human prisoners sit trapped inside iron cages. Most of them are weak and dying, but one girl still looks relatively healthy. A goblin guard approaches her and calls out, singling her out because of her appearance. He promises her freedom if she does him a favor, his leering tone making his intentions clear. The girl stares at him in disgust, but before she can respond, his head is sliced clean off in an instant. The attack came from Lancelot, and after helping the girl, he disappears as swiftly as he arrived. Just moments later, a flaming bowling ball floats above the camp. The goblins below glance up in confusion, trying to understand what they're seeing. One of them shouts in panic when he realizes what it is. The bowling ball suddenly shoots forward, crashing straight into an anti-aircraft gun. The explosion tears through the area, setting off a chain reaction that destroys nearby missile launchers as well. As the smoke clears, another bowling ball launches from a sling-like contraption aimed at the next target. The knight behind the weapon is none other than our archer, Bedivere, who fights with incredible precision. Despite missing an arm, he moves with perfect control, already surrounded by fallen goblins. Earlier, Lancelot had explained his story, revealing that he only had one arm. He was a genius archer serving a duke, but jealousy led to betrayal, and his arm was severed. Instead of giving up, he devoted himself to training his remaining arm, mastering throwing and shooting techniques until he became one of Camelot's 12 knights. Our boy could hardly believe that a one-armed archer could destroy anti-aircraft guns from such a long distance, but Lancelot reassured him he had spent countless years fighting alongside the archer, and from what he saw in the base, the two of them will be enough to take it down. Back in the battle, another explosion shakes the ground as the archer's next shot hits its mark. From a nearby hill, goblin soldiers shout in alarm, trying to understand what's happening. Before they can react, the skeleton appears among them like a shadow of death. Meanwhile, our boy continues collecting mana stones automatically whenever the knights kill monsters. Since he has the dimensional account, he doesn't need to be there in person, and the mana stones automatically get collected for him. More and more mana stones roll in, and he wonders if he's somehow cheating fate to get so many. At the same time, the driver guy points out a flare-like signal exploding in the air. The hero explains that this is the marker he told Lancelot to release once the cannons were neutralized. His friend is impressed with how quickly the skeleton knight completed the task. The commander watches both knights work and admits that with warriors like these, a special forces unit isn't even necessary. He orders the group to move out. Meanwhile, the archer skeleton studies the map and grows concerned. My man can't remember where the skeleton knight ordered him to go next. Confused, he decides to go with his gut and starts walking. At the same time, the skeleton knight is busy beating up a goblin to get answers. He pins the goblin and presses for details about their plan and the mastermind behind it all. Under pressure, the goblin coughs up a name, Tonatiuh, who is supposedly so strong that even 8 rankers don't come close. The skeleton knight can't recall ever hearing about such an entity and pushes for more answers. However, the goblin somehow breaks free and jumps out of the window. The other soldiers panic as they witness their commander running for his life. The skeleton knight arrives seconds later and tells them running will not save the fugitive. The soldiers form a ring to protect their leader and insist on getting the commander to safety, shouting that reinforcements could arrive any moment. He mocks their loyalty to such a useless commander. While trash-talking, one of the goblins reveals that they can grow their rank by devouring humans. Before the goblin can say more, the knight cuts him down. He thanks him for making it clear which targets he needs to kill. The commander's support collapses quickly. Most of his men fall under the knight's blade, and the sight terrifies the remaining goblins. From above, a helicopter appears carrying our boy and his friend. The goblin commander is stunned as he thinks that this is a government-operated helicopter. With no options left, he sacrifices his own soldiers and starts eating them to increase his rank. Our boy watches as the goblin becomes an 8-rank monster by consuming mana crystals. The knight explains that this goblin chose to take a shortcut just to get to the 8th rank. He doesn't even want to bother with this, and leaves it to the archer. From above, the archer skeleton shoots down one of the flaming bowling balls and kills the goblin in a single blow. At that instant, our boy receives 322 mana stones, pushing his total to 3,542. The operations chief arrives, reports that with the 2 knights' help they destroyed the main threats, and that civilian rescue is proceeding smoothly. A soldier asks about the goblin commander's fate, but before anyone can answer, he witnesses his body on the ground. Our hero asks the skeleton knight whether he learned the enemy's plan during interrogation. The knight apologizes, admitting that he wasn't able to get much information, only the name of the entity that they have made a deal with. He then asks for the building where the commander was staying in hopes of finding some secret documents. Lancelot points out the commander's quarters on the 4th floor, and the team prepares to investigate further. Judging from the skeleton knight's information, our boy estimates it will take a long time to collect everything. Therefore, he asks Pax to store all maps and documents under the military category. The system quickly calculates the amount, over 5,086 documents, requiring 120 mana stones. He authorizes it, telling the chief that his system will handle the data since they need the information quickly to reach their families sooner. Then, a system alert appears. 2 of the documents cannot be categorized as military. That catches his attention. One paper is titled Dimension Being Application Form, which Lancelot explains is used to officially raise a being's rank. The other document is about the loophole method to attain a higher rank. Our boy is shocked to learn that the rebels still chose to go with the loophole despite having this application form. The skeleton knight assumes the rebels didn't meet the requirements for official registration. The documents clearly show that becoming a dimension being requires both mana stones and a dimension account, something only a few people can access since the dimensional shift has just begun. He reminds the hero that he is one of the rare individuals who already fulfilled the requirements after defeating an 8th rank enemy and obtaining a dimension account. By signing the official form, he can safely ascend without turning into a goblin. He also explains that genuine forms automatically translate into the user's own language, which means that this form is official. Our boy looks at the registration form again and notices that it requires 1,000 mana stones. Without hesitation, he signs it. Instantly, the stones are deducted from his balance, and the paper vanishes into thin air. Surprised by how simple it is, he asks if that's all. The knight confirms that the process is complete. Moments later, a goblin soldier arrives on a motorcycle with some news for his commander. Meanwhile, the archer skeleton watches him from the top of a building and wonders if he is riding some kind of a horse. After searching through the goblin commander's office, they found more than 40,000 military documents. Our boy didn't have time to review them all since he wanted to return to his family, so he left it all to the chief. Since the city is taken over by the rebel forces, it won't be possible to travel there using military vehicles, so they need something else. However, when he opens his subspace inventory, every vehicle stored inside is military-related, not a single civilian one. Frustrated, he settles for an electric bicycle, hoping to find something better along the way. As they walk outside, they spot the archer skeleton sitting on a motorbike. Our boy looks at him in shock and asks where he got the bike. The skeleton casually points to a dead goblin nearby and explains that he took it from him because it looked interesting. The hero realizes this must be the enemy commander's bike, which is considered a military vehicle. He quickly stores it in his subspace using 22 mana stones, so he can duplicate it later. Meanwhile, in another goblin outpost, 2 guards hear an engine approaching. They grow suspicious and decide to wait until it gets closer to identify whether it's friend or foe. But before they can react, our boy launches his flaming ball, instantly killing one guard. The other barely has time to turn before Lancelot appears and decapitates him in a flash. They continue onward through the ruined streets. From a rooftop, a goblin spots the motorcycle and grows suspicious, knowing no such vehicle should be in their territory. He keeps watch as our boy and his skeletons speed away. Finally, he reaches the neighborhood where his brother and sister-in-law once lived. He rushes to the door and knocks repeatedly, calling out for his brother. There's no reply. Anxiety builds inside him as he keeps shouting with no answer. With trembling hands, he unlocks the door and steps inside only to find it empty. With the skeleton knight in the lead, they search through the house on any clues. Our boy looks around and notices that the place doesn't look attacked, just hurriedly abandoned. Then he notices a letter left on the table. When he picks it up, he realizes it's from his brother. In the note, his brother writes that he, along with his wife, is leaving for their father's workshop in Uijeongbu because the area has become unsafe. The phones don't work, and soldiers have started kidnapping civilians. Still, they're unharmed for now, and hope he and his sister survive too. After reading the letter, our boy exhales in relief, thinking at least his family escaped before danger arrived. He hands the letter to the archer and asks him to give it to his sister. As he opens his subspace, he realizes his brother must have written the letter before the first corpse invasion, meaning they're safe for now. Still, the situation in Uijeongbu is worsening fast, with the rebel forces taking control of most areas. He quickly turns to the skeleton knight and says they need to move quickly. Before they can leave, the sound of helicopter blades interrupts them. From behind a nearby building, a chopper rises, piloted by the same goblin who had seen the hero earlier. The goblin radios in, confirming the targets, and immediately opens fire. The bullets appear to hit their target head-on, but when the smoke fades, our boy stands unharmed. He mutters that he thought he was done for, then calmly instructs his system to store the helicopter in the military base category. The system deducts 141 mana stones, and the helicopter disappears into subspace. The goblin pilot panics, shouting in disbelief that the man survived, but before he can react, the chopper vanishes beneath him. He falls screaming and crashes to his death. Our boy looks at Lancelot and tells him they must hurry. As they continue forward, he thinks about how they've cleared every goblin on their path and now have a fully armed helicopter in storage. Still, what matters most to him is his family's safety. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a group of goblins argues among themselves. Their commander complains that the high priest demands more human sacrifices, but they've failed to capture enough people lately. After scolding one of the goblin soldiers for not meeting the quota, he turns his attention towards Sergeant Kyong, who at this point has completely transformed into a monster. The commander orders him to destroy the building ahead. Just as the elite goblin starts moving, the loud roar of a motorcycle echoes through the area. The goblins turn and spot the hero approaching fast. Someone shouts that it's the same human again. Furious and nearing his home, our boy yells that the goblins have no right to come near his house. Together with the skeleton knight, they cut through the goblins, and within moments, the ground is covered in fallen enemies. From a nearby building, Kim's dad peeks out through broken windows, watching his son with a shocked expression. When the other family members ask him what's going on, he tells them that their son is here on a motorcycle with a skeleton. Before this moment, his father's life had been ordinary. He once believed that good and bad only held meaning when shared with others. As a child, his mother used to remind him of that again and again so much that he'd grown tired of hearing it. Yet as he grew older, he realized she had been right. Through every failure and betrayal he faced in business, it was the people who truly cared for him that helped him stand again. When his children began to grow up, he dreamed of building a large home where the whole family could live together peacefully. But after checking construction costs, he realized it was far beyond what he could afford. The dream slowly faded into the background of his busy life. Years passed. His eldest son married, his eldest daughter became a nurse, his younger daughter turned into an athlete, and his youngest son completed his military service. Life was moving forward, and everything seemed bright. Then, without warning, monsters appeared in the world. The father owned a hardware store, which became their shelter. Using the tools and materials he had, he managed to keep his family safe during the first wave of attacks. But survival didn't come easy. Food and water ran out quickly, and the situation worsened each day. Then one afternoon, his eldest son's in-laws managed to find them, followed soon by his son and daughter-in-law. His daughter-in-law's special ability helped them survive a bit longer. She could produce water. But their relief didn't last. New monster-like soldiers appeared who were far more brutal than the other monsters. They tortured anyone they found, sparing no one, not men, women, or even children. Then one day, a notification appeared before him informing him that he had awakened an ability. His class was Architect, giving him the power to freely create and reinforce structures. He believed the ability had awakened from his long-buried dream of building a safe home for his family. With it, he strengthened their house, sealing the windows, fortifying the walls, and surrounding the property with barriers. Combined with his daughter-in-law's power, they managed to hold on, But the danger never stopped. Recently, he'd seen soldiers scouting near their home, and now they had returned, this time bringing a large monster with them. He knew they planned to destroy everything, so he instructed his son to take everyone through an underground passage he had secretly built. His wife protested in fear, but he smiled weakly, asking her to trust him. Just as he was about to lead them to safety, he suddenly stopped as something outside had caught his attention. His wife noticed his expression and asked if the situation was worse than before. He said quietly that it wasn't that. This takes us back to our current situation. After getting rid of the goblins, our boy makes his way towards the house along with his skeleton buddies. Before he can even call out, the front door opens and his dad locks eyes with him. He immediately starts crying and runs to his dad to hug him. However, he notices his family's expressions shift from joy to alarm when they notice the skeletons standing silently behind him. He quickly explains that the undead are his summons, loyal and harmless to humans. To ease their worry further, he gestures toward the glowing portal behind him, where his two sisters sit comfortably eating food. When the sisters spot their family through the portal, they too burst into tears. After the emotional meetup, he puts his entire family into the subspace and they all have dinner together. His mother is astonished as she tastes the food. She glances at Youngsu's wife, wondering if she is a professional chef. Not wanting to be outdone, the mom decides to make a dessert to match. She does her best to make a mom-style tiramisu with green grapes and whipped cream. When Yoojung takes a bite, her eyes brighten instantly. Seeing this, the mom laughs proudly, pretending it was nothing special, but inside she feels happy to have earned that praise. Meanwhile, in another corner of the house, an old man approaches Lancelot and asks if he knows how to play chess. Lancelot admits that he's played something similar but not exactly the same. The old man grins and invites him to join, eager to teach him the real game. The two walk off, leaving the others to their own conversations. Nearby, our hero's brother hands him a small glowing stone. It's an enchantment stone of grade D, carrying the powers of penetration and explosion. The brother explains how he found it during their journey when a griffin-like monster had fought and killed a rhino-type beast. Afterward, he discovered the stone inside the rhino's body. He admits he can't use it well himself, but he believes he can make the most of it. As the brother leaves, our boy notices a scar on his face and wonders how much they might have suffered while trying to survive. Just then, his dad walks in and tells him just how proud he is. He says he's grateful that their whole family is finally safe. Thanks to his son's ability, they're in a secure place where food and safety are no longer a concern. Our boy nods with a calm expression. He tells his father that he now understands something important. Good and bad only matter as long as people exist around them. When he first got his power, he never thought he'd be able to reunite with his family. But the more he used his strength to help others, the more he realized everyone shared the same wish to protect their loved ones. No matter what powers they have, they're still human. They still feel pain, fear, and hope. If people stop helping one another, he wonders, what kind of hearts would they even have? His father smiles proudly, saying he couldn't be prouder of his son. Our boy thanks him sincerely, feeling grateful to have such a father. After saying goodnight, they both go to rest. The scene then shifts to a military base where officers are buried in piles of documents. After going through nearly half the stack, the operations commander tells everyone to take a short break. Suddenly, a soldier bursts in with urgent news. He reports that a skeleton knight just arrived on a motorcycle, claiming his lord is heading toward Paju. The commander looks shocked. If the knight's lord is who he thinks it is, then why is he going there? After a brief pause, he screams in shock, realizing that our boy might be going there to take on the rebel army. Meanwhile, the sister is deep in her boxing practice. She punches so hard that the heavy sandbag tears apart and flies across the room. Annoyed, she yells for Pax to bring another one faster, but Pax calmly reminds her that they're moving exactly at their programmed speed. From the upper floor, her brother watches with the older sister. He asks why she seems so angry today. The sister explains that it's because our boy didn't let her go outside to fight. He said the outside world was too dangerous even with her powers, so instead, she asked their father to install a sandbag setup and has been venting her anger on it ever since. Then she changes the subject and asks him about the scar on his face. He touches his cheek, realizing that the wound has almost completely healed. Shocked, he mutters that maybe he's awakened some kind of power too. The sister just rolls her eyes, saying it was barely a scratch to begin with. But he insists it was a deep cut and that it couldn't have healed this fast. She scoffs and reminds him that when she was in the hospital once, she met a man who could control people's minds and could make anyone act on his command. Compared to that, her brother's little scar is nothing. Just then, their mother calls from the kitchen that dinner is ready. She dashes off immediately, eager to eat, and quickly informs everyone else. Elsewhere, the hero's grandfather sits in another room, deeply focused on a game. He feels both impressed and puzzled as he notices that Lancelot, who claims to have never played before, is executing advanced moves he can't understand. In the end, the grandfather loses the game and decides to ask the skeleton knight to teach him those techniques later. Meanwhile, the outside world turns into a war zone. Dozens of tanks advance, firing non-stop and causing massive explosions. A glowing portal appears ahead, launching a barrage of missiles. These are rare-ranked weapons enhanced with penetration and explosive attributes. Each missile strikes a tank and destroys it instantly, wiping out the attacking forces within seconds. Watching this, the boy feels satisfied. He has avoided using heavy weaponry before to protect civilians, but the Skeleton Knight's scouting confirms the area is clear of innocents. Now he can unleash his full power. According to their plan, he will annihilate the enemy army while his Skeleton Knight rescues the hostages. He upgrades his Blackhawk helicopter with powerful weapons and combines enhancement stones with his missiles, giving them extreme speed of 200 miles per hour and a range of 300 feet. These enhanced missiles make collecting mana stones much easier. He realizes he needs 10,000 mana stones to upgrade his subspace to level 4. When he checks his resources, he is shocked to see only 1,890 mana stones, far fewer than expected, considering the number of goblins he has eliminated. The system informs him that 45% of the total mana stones automatically go to someone named Tonatiuh from the Mexica dimension, and another 25% go to the High Priest Bongsu. The boy is stunned as he faintly remembers hearing these names before from the Skeleton Knight. At that moment, the Skeleton Knight returns after completing his mission. He reports that all enemy camps are destroyed, and that his archer buddy is rescuing the remaining survivors. Our boy confirms he isn't injured, then asks him about this Tonatiuh guy and the High Priest. The Skeleton Knight explains that the Mexica dimension is likely his realm, similar to how Earth is called the Earth dimension. He adds that the High Priest Bongsu is probably one of the traitors sacrificing people to gain more power. Meanwhile, system notices keep appearing on High Priest's screen, each one showing fees taken from large mana stone totals. Bung frowns, uneasy about the flood of messages and wondering whose account is generating so many stones that he's getting paid this much. He can hear explosions outside, but none of his soldiers came to report anything, so he doesn't know what is going on. Before he can sort it out, a missile rips through him and he falls to the ground. Our boy arrives soon after, exhausted from climbing stairs. He finds his body with a huge hole in the chest, but then notices a red mist gathering around the wound and closing it. The Skeleton Knight identifies the effect and mentions that the priest is regenerating. After a moment, the guy rises fully recovered, smirking at the sight of our boy accompanied by a Skeleton Knight. The hero tells him that he is also pretty shocked since he didn't think goblins could talk. The priest explains coldly that those goblin soldiers used to be human, transformed by greed for mana stones. He claims he warned them against that fate. He talks about settling things peacefully, suggesting they step back because he can kill them anytime he wants. However, he doesn't want to waste any time. Hearing this, the Skeleton Knight puts him in place, claiming that he won't be able to put a scratch on them. Meanwhile, our boy is trying to figure out that red smoke. Behind the priest, the entire sky is covered with it. Suddenly, a terrifying eye appears above them from the smoke, and our boy completely freezes. Seeing him so shocked, the priest, if this is his first time seeing a high-ranked being. Due to the ranking restrictions, most high-ranked beings don't get involved in these affairs even when they are working as a sponsor. However, Tonatiuh is different, as he will literally descend upon the world when he calls him. The priest offers them another chance at forgiveness, but before he can continue talking, the Skeleton Knight beheads him in a swift motion. Despite being severed, his head floats back and reattaches as the red energy pulses. The priest laughs, claiming that he can keep regenerating no matter how many times they kill him. The knight refuses to surrender and mentions that he is only loyal to his master. Hearing this, the priest charges towards him to attack since he is confident in his regeneration ability. Instead of using his sword, Lancelot decides to fight with his fists, even if he can't kill the guy. The priest heals continually between the blows, laughing that he cannot die, but the knight refuses to stop until he forces him to die. Our boy watches him beat the crap out of the priest, but he knows that defeating him is a different challenge. His endless regeneration comes from Tonatiuh, and if he doesn't act quickly, nothing will change. He thinks hard, trying to find a way to stop him from healing. Then he remembers how putting the big guy into his subspace removed the effect of the poison. Maybe doing the same to the priest will stop him. He orders the skeleton to throw him toward the portal. The knight doesn't hesitate and hurls him straight into the portal. A system notification pops up asking for permission to allow him into subspace, and he quickly approves. Inside subspace, the older sister walks with her snacks when she notices the portal activating. At first, she thinks it's her brother, but when she sees the old guy, she starts screaming in shock. The other sister arrives at the same time and grabs the priest by his head as she mistook him for her brother. Our boy watches her from outside the portal as she charges at him, but he acts fast, closing the portal just in time and trapping her inside. The priest's body is immediately unregistered and expelled from subspace. The sister stands there with a demonic look on her face, warning him that she will deal with him the next time he enters. Bro is more scared of her than Tonatiuh. After the priest dies, the dimension account ownership is transferred, and all mana stones are automatically combined. Our boy checks the total and sees 14,123 mana stones. He is shocked since the priest managed to collect this much just from commissions alone. He didn't get any notification about paying commission to Tanatia, so he looks up to check only to notice that it has vanished. The skeleton knight explains that the high priest was the only one who could summon the entity here, and now that his connection is severed, it has disappeared from this world. He doubts the entity will attempt to return. Our boy exhales deeply and sits down, completely exhausted. The tension and near-death experience have left him drained, even though he barely fought himself. Just then, a voice calls out, and he turns to see reinforcements arriving accompanied by the commander. When asked about the first unit's commander, our boy points to High Priest's shriveled, dried body. Through their radios, other units report that all goblins in the area are dead, including zombies. No enemies survived, though the cause remains unclear. The commander orders his team to stay alert, continue reporting, rescue any civilians, and clear the battlefield. Turning back to the hero, he praises him, acknowledging that he handled the entire situation perfectly. Our boy laughs awkwardly, admitting that even he doesn't fully understand why all the goblins turned into mummified corpses. The commander apologizes for trying to recruit him into the military earlier. He admits he underestimated his abilities, realizing now that his true power far exceeds anything he imagined. Still, he makes a request and asks him to help the survivors. Many are injured, shocked, or haven't awakened yet, and the damage is far worse than anticipated. He acknowledges that the government and military mishandled the situation and asks him to assist. Our boy agrees but clarifies that he's not making any deal. He firmly states that he will never join the military under their orders, and any future help he offers will be his own decision. The commander smiles and extends his hand. They shake, sealing their understanding. He then pulls out his walkie-talkie and announces that the hero is being granted the honorary rank of colonel for his extraordinary contribution in eliminating the armored force and quelling the rebellion. All military personnel are ordered to show proper respect and cooperate fully with him. He tries to stop him, embarrassed, insisting he isn't a soldier. The commander mentions that he can ignore him if he wants and leaves to help with the rescue. Our boy starts blushing for some reason and mutters to himself about how embarrassed he is. After the commander leaves, he praises the knight for his efforts and suggests they go rest. The knight thanks him but asks about his archer buddy. The hero remembers and tries to retrieve him using the item retrieval function, but it fails because the archer skeleton is out of range. He realizes the system only works at close distance, so he decides they'll go find him together. At the same time, he uses 10,000 mana stones to upgrade his subspace to level 4 and wonders what the archer skeleton is up to. The scene shifts to the archer, who is inside the high priest's office, rifling through dusty documents. He's pleased with what he finds and thinks his master will be happy too. Until now, he has found 3 application forms to register as a dimensional being. Our boy arrives and sees the documents, realizing they are forms for registering dimensional beings. He thanks the archer, knowing these papers might help calm his demonic sister. As he opens the portal, his sister waits on the other side with a dangerous grin. The older sister egging her on only makes her more threatening. Before she attacks, he quickly hands her the documents, instructing her to read them first, hoping to distract and control the situation. She flips through the papers and realizes they are dimensional registration forms. Our boy admits he didn't want to stop her from fighting, but he worried the outside world is too dangerous. He also confesses he enjoys watching her fight, and didn't just trap here for the laughs. The sister barely pays attention to his praise and keeps reading, and for a moment he relaxes, thinking the crisis is over. Suddenly she frowns as she realizes that in order to register, she needs a dimensional account. Our boy quickly thinks of an excuse, but before he can finish, she punches him so hard he spins and falls. Due to the new subspace upgrade, the healing effect is strong enough so he doesn't really feel any pain. The older sister watches the chaos and wonders aloud if her brother will survive being an 8th ranker. The knights, however, start trembling oddly. Saul has our boy by the throat now, squeezing hard. When Juyan cries out, he looks and sees both knights dropping to their knees, clearly suffering. The sister asks if they're all right. The skeleton knight says his body itches and feels wrong, getting worse by the second. The nurse sister thinks it might be some kind of side effect of healing. Our boy puts the pieces together and realizes that the subspace's new life support is pumping healing energy into the area, but skeletal beings like the knights react badly to those restorative effects. The system is trying to heal and stabilize, but for undead physiology that causes agonizing conflict. With a trembling voice, Lancelot mentions that they felt better when they were inside the fortress. Hearing this, they decide to move inside Camelot. As the healing effect is reversed, the item generates a white enchantment stone with no special attributes. There is another blue stone, which he never saw get made. He wonders how enchantment stones are being produced automatically without obvious sacrifices. Turns out that the subspace life support system is healing the knights, while the blood right ability of the item is using that life as a sacrifice to generate enchantment stones. In other words, our boy has found the infinite enchantment stone glitch. Still, Even with all this, he isn't sure if he can take on someone like that higher-level entity from earlier. He decides to focus on his own abilities for now. The scene cuts to the military base, where officers review captured documents. They report that the rebel forces used the national flag to lure in citizens and used them as sacrifices. However, the hero took care of everything, so they don't have to worry about it now. As the commander looks at the rising sun above the mountains, he realizes that it's already morning. Suddenly, a system notification appears, not just for him but for everyone on Earth. It announces that the Interdimensional Chamber of Commerce has been monitoring Earth during its exploration phase. They report that 13,117 people have received special abilities, though 17 cases were reported of reverse growth. Despite that, Earth shows great growth potential and value for future multidimensional projects. Another notification follows, declaring the exploration period over. Earth is now classified as Grade BB, and the next phase begins soon. In 7 days, a bidding competition will start, where representatives from different regions of Earth lead their teams. The outcome will determine rewards. If an opposing dimension wins, a portal opens for further exploration. If Earth's representative wins, they gain a separate prize. Detailed rules will be released 24 hours before the event. Seeing all this, our boy claims that it's basically a declaration of war. His family wonders if this is some kind of prank, but he knows it's real since the dimensional registration form also mentioned this same corporation. His mother erupts in anger and rants furiously, demanding who gave them the right to invade or hold competitions on their planet. Both siblings smile nervously as they witness her anger. Our boy admits he isn't fully sure what's happening either. Still, judging by the rules and bidding system, it seems Earth is now linked to some kind of game-like system. Then a new message appears, addressed only to him. The chamber congratulates him for achieving the highest profit in his region during the exploration period and selects him as Soul's representative for the upcoming bidding competition. If he refuses, the position automatically goes to the second highest earner. The older sister is surprised the message came only to him, and his brother points out that this officially makes him Soul's representative. He adds that it seems the competition will involve alien forces and humans from Earth, though everyone already assumes that. Finally, another notification appears, explaining that if the hero accepts, he can select 100 members, including himself, for his team in the bidding competition. After accepting, he visits the commander, who looks very pleased. Our boy explains that he can select 100 team members to fight against the alien forces who are going to invade the city. He has already added his family and the knights and asks the army to provide the remaining 80. The commander relaxes, relieved that he is the one leading them against this alien invasion. He even hands him a small notebook containing the names of awakened soldiers, offering him the choice of anyone. He politely declines, saying he only needs the best marksman. The commander is surprised Kim assures him that he has received detailed intelligence about the aliens and their abilities. Apparently, they worship a goddess named Emeth, and specialize in using divine powers to make weapons. He opens up the system message showing the goddess and her army. Her warriors shout prayers for her eternal life, and the destruction of all humans, calling them barbarians. Another notification lists the participants from the Emeth's dimension, revealing that all of them are 8th rank warriors. Our boy knows that their enemies are strong, but he still doesn't understand the format of this battle. According to the details he received, 1 hour before the battle, both sides gather in the same area, but are separated by an invisible barrier, allowing time to prepare, but not attack. The Emeth Dimension team will bring a gate core, which hatches automatically after 12 hours. For Earth to win, they must destroy it before then. However, the enemy won't just sit around and defend the gate, they will also act offensively considering most of his team is 9th ranked, and the enemy can see their roster. This means that they will have to defend against their attacks while trying to reach the gate core at the same time. He picks himself, the Skeleton Knight, and his sister for attacks. However, they are lacking in defense since all of their enemy fighters are 8th ranks. The commander points out that their long-range weapons won't even harm the 8th rank enemies because their equipment isn't strong enough. Hearing this, our boy tells him not to worry since he upgraded his abilities last night. While he didn't gain new skills, his existing ones evolved, allowing him to launch multiple items at once and unlock new features. His subspace lab now includes a simulation system for building and testing weapons before crafting them. He spends hours experimenting, creating weapons that are lightweight, usable by non-ability users, and powerful enough to penetrate 8th rank armor. After many hours of testing and tweaking, he finally makes a gun that meets his expectations. At first he tries enchanting just the ammo, but the guns break after a single shot because the frames are too weak. He experiments with different materials until he realizes the frame must be reinforced with enchantment stones. Once he fits them, the gun's durability improves and it can fire 3 shots in a row without falling apart. Our boy brings everyone together and explains the plan. He says the rifle only lasts for 3 shots, but they will stockpile many of them and swap guns as needed. These will help them defend while another group targets the gate core. The commander admires the modified weapon and quickly assembles a list of elite snipers to send over. The elite snipers get a week to train with their new weapons. Our boy also works with his father on defensive plans. He brings a map and they prepare a castle layout for the contest. The squad in charge of offense also upgrades their power using mana stones. His sister is now able to use her body shield to protect other people too. The older sister's skill upgrades as well, and now she can create a barrier around herself that automatically heals anyone standing inside it. With all these upgrades and preparations, our boy is confident that they can win this war. 7 days pass. With 1 hour left before the competition, a portal opens at the National Assembly, and knights from the Emeth's realm appear carrying their gate core. Our watches from a distance and recognizes the core from the preview videos. However, he notices something odd. The enemy immediately begins erecting 2 large structures. He guesses that these structures are probably meant to protect the gate core. At the same time, some of the Holy Knights move toward the invisible barrier. One of them claims that they have seen their roster and know that only a few are 7th and 8th rank, while most are 9th rank, so they should be able to beat them easily. He then starts trash talking and says that they will rip their tongues out as a form of mercy. Our boy already expected this much from the Holy Knights and he is still confident in his 9th rank teammates. The system then notifies the start of the bidding competition. Without wasting a second, the Knight Commander orders everyone to charge. On the other side, the Human Commander orders his units to open fire. The snipers begin blind firing with the modified rifles. Those rounds have an electric effect, which stuns the enemy knights and allows bullets to damage shields and wound soldiers, something they didn't expect from 9th rank fighters. The knights quickly activate their barriers to tank the bullets. Their plan is to hold out until the long-range ammo runs out. The sniper teams work in a relay. After a shooter fires 3 rounds, another man hands him a fresh rifle from their magazine system. They report to the hero that 20% of their rifles have been spent. This is all according to his estimates, so he decides to move to the next phase of their plan. It's now time for the offensive team to move. When the castle gate opens, a knight notices their movement and realizes that the enemy might be aiming for the gate core. Another knight dismisses the concern, saying it can't be destroyed and that their focus should remain on holding the line until reinforcements arrive. From above, the archer skeleton launches a flaming bowling ball at an enemy squad approaching to assist. The sudden strike takes them completely by surprise, eliminating the squad instantly. The hero notices the smoke and realizes that it's all going according to plan. Now all that's left is to take down the gate core. To his surprise, the enemy has already made a giant of their goddess to protect the gate core. He fires a hellfire missile at it, but the statue remains unscathed. Astonished by its resilience, he considers storing it in their subspace for future use. At that moment, an elder among the enemy knights shouts, claiming the earth is nothing but a mere tribute to their goddess and scolding humans for their arrogance. Other knights warn him to take cover, but he insists on delivering the goddess's message and cleansing the hearts of the humans. In all of this, our boy notices the enemy warehouse storing all their alien construction materials. My man starts drooling and immediately orders Pax to store it in his subspace. As the elder looks around in shock, our boy then asks his friend to pilot the helicopter for a short flight, taking it as high as possible. The skeleton knight and his sister sense another attack from enemy spare troops. To defend against the incoming attack, the sister initially raises her barrier confidently, but it shatters instantly. The knight explains that these are not ordinary items, but enhanced through a special dimensional technique, creating effects similar to enchantment stones. The Holy Knights continue to throw spears as they realize that their warehouse has been stolen. They are enhancing their spears through a special technique called blessing, and Lancelot believes that the same technique has also been applied on the construction materials. Hearing this, the sister catches one of the spears, realizing that they might make for excellent weapons. The driver guy notices that the knights aren't firing as many spears as before, so they decide to take off. From above, our boy begins dropping the looted construction materials onto the goddess Emeth statue. Each strike triggers massive destruction, and when the smoke clears, the gate core is destroyed. A system notification confirms that the Soul Region bidding competition is over, and that Earth has won. Rewards are set to be distributed. All 100 participants receive dimension accounts, and 5,000 mana stones are allocated based on performance. Our hero immediately registers his dad, his older sister, and the driver guy as 8th ranks using the registration forms he had collected earlier. Another floating document appears, granting exclusive establishment rights to the lethal dimension. With this, a red portal opens, leaving him and the others puzzled. When he reaches to touch it, a notification informs him that he must confirm his license before conducting business. The system then offers to buy the rights for 10,000 magic stones. Our boy is stunned and frustrated. Though he was given the rights as a reward, they are trying to manipulate him into selling them. He recognizes the unfairness of the multi-dimension Chamber of Commerce, since they forced the bidding competition, stacked it against him, and now act as if they are graciously gifting rewards while attempting to reclaim them. Angry, he decides to refuse the offer and keep the rights unless an exceptionally large sum is proposed. At that moment, his father speaks from behind, asking what they should do next. He replies that there isn't much to do, and that the portal ahead doesn't seem useful. His older sister mentions that all the paperwork is finished and says she will go treat the injured. He agrees, giving her permission, then apologizes to his father for summoning him so suddenly, and acknowledges that he must be tired. His father smiles and reassures him that signing a few papers is easy, and even makes him feel stronger. Our boy tells him he can go rest through the portal. As everyone starts walking away to do their own thing, the dad notices a massive pile of high-quality construction materials from the other dimension. He is amazed by the sheer amount and asks his son why there is so much. Our boy explains that all the materials belong to them and are infinite, never running out. His father starts lighting up hearing this, as this is basically a dream come true for him. As our boy walks away, he thinks about the bidding competition, noting that the results haven't been fully announced yet because the contest lasts 12 hours. He assumes all regions will get their final results once that time passes. The scene shifts to nighttime, 12 hours later. A system notification announces that all bidding competitions have ended, and the results are being released. In China, 16 out of 117 regions have won, while 101 have lost. In India, 24 out of 129 regions are victorious, and 104 regions have failed. Other areas' results appear one by one. Finally, South Korea's results are shown. Out of 5 regions, 4 have won, but one region, Incheon, has lost. With this, the overall bidding competition results are revealed. In total, 761 regions took part in the bidding competition, 113 Earth regions won, and 648 lost. Because of the defeat, Earth region's grade drops from BB to CCC. The scene moves to the Joint Chief of Staff strategic meeting room. The commander reads the reports and calls the results a disaster. He did not expect such heavy losses worldwide. Some places had close outcomes, but overall they suffered many defeats. Still, he points out that Korea's representatives mostly did well since only one region failed. He suggests urgently assembling troops to raid that region. At the same time, a soldier bursts in with an urgent update informing that they received an urgent transmission from the 17th Division in Incheon. The commander scans the disaster report and learns the attackers are lizard men from the Savros dimension, with a gate open inside Chinatown. Their forces are well trained and skilled in both ground and air combat. 2 hours before the bidding ended, the fighting paused, but the lizard men kept pouring troops through the portal and set up large-scale deployments aimed at Seoul. The staff realize this looks like a direct assault. They wonder why the army is making its way to the city, guessing that it may be related to our boy. The Skeleton Knight looks at the map and notices that the two cities are very close by, meaning that they need to act quickly. Suddenly, they receive a system notification informing them that the names of all the regional representatives who won will be displayed over their heads. Sol wonders if her brother's name will appear, but neither she nor he sees anything above him. For a moment, they think he might not be the registered regional representative, which would make no sense. More system messages arrive mentioning that 7th-tier entities may now travel to Earth. Moreover, the beings from other dimensions who have obtained establishment licenses like the one our boy got can open up new portals in other regions by killing the region's representative. The group realizes regional representatives are now prime targets, and it's probably a good thing that they can't see a name above the hero's head. Hearing this, the Skeleton Knight suddenly thinks of something and steps out the window. Right above the building, he can see a giant tag reading, Seoul Rep. Everyone comes outside to look. Our boy realizes his name was there all along, just so high that it wasn't visible before. His sister notes that the label makes him an easy target for the lizard men. This confirms their worry that the attackers had anticipated new rules and prepared ahead of time. The Skeleton Knight suggests the lizard men treated the bidding like a long-term plan. Win the contest, eliminate the sole representative, seize the business rights, and open a permanent portal. They seem to know these competitions well and set their moves in advance. Hearing all this, the sister suggests simply hiding in the subspace and attacking from inside. Lancelot explains that his master might be safe this way, but enemies can seize others as hostages or use local forces to force them out. Our boy argues that subspace alone won't solve the problem. The enemy will adapt. Instead, they should relocate to a defensive position that favors them, hold the ground long enough, and then counterattack with full force. The staff agree this is sensible. Find a strong position, deploy forces and weapons quickly, and form a solid defensive line before the lizard men hit. However, they need to do it fast. This is where the driver guy comes in and assures them that he can move them anywhere as quickly as they want. He asks where they are going to set up their forces. Kim hesitates, admitting that the biggest problem is he hasn't yet chosen the base location. He knows that the location must give them an advantage. Enemies should take heavy damage while he can launch attacks without harming civilians. Turns out, the Guyang Bridge is a perfect location for them since it restricts enemy movement. Most surrounding areas are parks with few buildings, making civilian evacuation easy. Even if enemies try other paths, they must still pass the bridge, and shooters can handle threats from other directions. Once the location is set, they start building defenses using the dad's architect ability. Moreover, they also have the materials from the other dimension, so a strong defensive line begins to take shape. The Emeth warehouse still contains spare materials, which Kim retrieves for barricades to slow enemy advance. His fighter sister and the archer skeleton stand on top of a fortress prepared to throw the javelins they collected from the Holy Knights. Construction continues efficiently below, with barricades strategically placed and shooters positioned to maximize coverage. Our boy notes that while barriers can slow ground enemies, air units remain a threat. It takes them just 4 hours to put it all together thanks to his dad's ability. However, even after all of this, they fail to take into account 2 crucial things. First, that the reptiles are strong swimmers, and the river is 1 kilometer long, allowing them to bypass the shooters and get to the other side without using the bridge. Secondly, the woods on the other side provided them an excellent cover, and they were able to sneak up behind the hero's troops. After not being spotted by the group, the enemy General Rakis wonders how the Emeth dimension lost to these creatures. At the same time, a lizard man reports to him that General Ayatu is ready for the attack. The archer skeleton and soul completely fail at identifying the enemy position and get ambushed by a bunch of flying lizardmen. The enemies advance rapidly, shocking R with their speed. Soldiers immediately open fire with the enhanced bullets, which impact the enemy, while our boy throws the Emeth dimension materials through his portal to slow them. The enemies dodge obstacles and continue forward. General Iatu commands his troops to continue advancing since they won't be able to hit them with these materials if they get too close. The other general orders him to charge, and he obeys, charging straight at our boy. However, he gets stabbed by a spear from above thrown by our hero. This isn't enough to stop him, and the general continues to charge, filled with rage. The skeleton knight notices that both generals are at 7th rank, but the one charging at them doesn't seem to know much fighting techniques. The real danger is General Rakis standing at a distance. Keeping this in mind, he asks our boy to handle the big guy while he goes for the main general. The other guy accepts his challenge and orders the big lizard to continue charging. Seeing how the knight dove in without fear, he starts to respect him as a warrior and asks for his name. After exchanging names, the guy asks him if he is ready to put his life on the line and fight him. Lancelot asks him the same thing, but before they begin, he points at his mount and questions if he will fight sitting on that thing. The general thinks it fair since they are only testing their own strengths. Hearing this, the knight basically tells him that it's fine since he is so scared of losing his life. This rage bait works perfectly, and the general steps down from his mount. Meanwhile, the soldiers focus all their firepower on the advancing enemies. Despite their efforts, the sheer speed and numbers of the attackers keep them pressing forward. They coordinate, warning each other of the approaching threat, and take cover to tend to an injured comrade while maintaining heavy fire to slow the enemy's advance. From above, the hero's sister throws a spear at a lizard man, knocking him off the building. Before he can recover, she jumps down and eliminates him completely. She informs the soldiers that she will stop anyone trying to climb the buildings, instructing them to keep firing. More lizard men approach, but she takes down another with a precise strike, while soldiers pick off the rest from a distance. Meanwhile, her sister tends to the injured soldier. On the ground, everyone is giving their full effort. The enemy also has some fighters attacking from the air, and the archer skeleton has to deal with all of them alone. Seeing them approaching, he realizes that he might not be able to stop them alone, and hopes the person he is waiting for arrives soon. Meanwhile, our boy is still fighting with the general. He keeps him at a distance by continuously firing those enhanced materials at him. Even the monster admits that he is powerful, but it doesn't stop the barrage of attacks from coming. The hero isn't even firing by himself since he has put the shipping on automatic. With one of the generals immobilized, he starts to worry about his skeleton knight. As he looks back, he notices General Rakis holding a holy spear. Just as he tries attacking, the skeleton knight dodges and leaps back. This makes the monster annoyed, and he questions if this is how warriors are supposed to fight. Lancelot wants to prove him wrong, but he understands just how dangerous his weapon is. It seems like he has enhanced it using the same technique from Emeth's dimension. He asks the general if the Emeth dimension crafted the sword for him. The general dismisses it, telling him that it was crafted on their own dimension, and the other dimension only enchanted it for them. My man tries to rage bait the monster again, and asks if he is using that weapon since he doesn't have the skill for a proper fight. The general doesn't take the bait this time, and at a critical moment, the skeleton knight loses his balance, and the monster launches a final attack, expecting to end the duel. The spear reaches near the knight's neck but unexpectedly stops, slips from his hand, rotates, and enters a portal. Our boy stores the holy spear as a new item in Emeth warehouse category using 238 mana stones. With the spear in his arsenal, he assures the lizard guy that he will put it to good use. Seeing all this, the general asks the knight if he is really going to fight dirty after all that warrior talk. The knight warns him not to talk about his master's plans without knowing anything. The lizard guy gets even more annoyed and starts trash-talking his master. Hearing this, Lancelot mentions that he can sense his fear since he lost his weapon. Now he is using anger to try and hide it, but it's no use since he doesn't even need a sword to defeat him. With this, he drops his sword and gets into a fighting stance, claiming that the result will still be the same. This makes the general laugh as he also gets into a fighting stance preparing for battle. Meanwhile, our boy checks out the stats of his new blade and realizes just how epic it truly is. Since our boy is distracted, the monster notices the attack pausing. He laughs mockingly and asks if he froze in fear after seeing his rock-solid defense. The monster continues boasting about his strength, revealing that no one can stop his charge except the two other generals. However, before he can do anything, two spears come flying and stabs him in the arm. Shock fills his face as he realizes that this spear belongs to his comrade. Before the guy can figure out anything else, he gets bombarded with countless more holy spears, and he falls down. A system notification confirms ownership of his dimensional account transfers to our boy, along with 1,067 mana stones and a level D enchant stone with the etherealization attribute. On the battlefield, soldiers continue firing, killing many lizards. The sister sees the lower area cleared and the building safe, but realizes she left the archer skeleton alone to handle flying enemies. She quickly runs to help, but when she gets there, it's already too late since he has already taken care of all the enemies by himself. Elsewhere, the skeleton knight and the general continue their duel. They are evenly matched in terms of strength, but Lancelot holds the technical. Bro turns into Prime Mike Tyson and starts hammering the lizard man with his punches. The general tries fighting back, but it's no use as he gets hit by a nasty uppercut. With the general on the ground, the knight asks him for his final words. The guy commends him for this glorious battle before getting squished by another punch. With both enemy generals down, the soldiers realize that they have survived the onslaught. At the same time, another soldier quickly informs the chief that they have an urgent message from the Joint Chief of Staff headquarters. Moreover, as long as the gate core is open, more and more monsters can just pour in from the other dimension, so now it's their turn to go on the offensive. Meanwhile, our boy continues upgrading his system. He uses 1,000 magic stones and raises his simultaneous shipping to level 3, allowing him to ship 8 objects simultaneously. He also considers the enchantment stone generated from the general he defeated earlier, wondering how best to use it. There's also going to be another enchant stone from Camelot which he factors into his plans. However, for now, gathering intelligence on the enemy becomes the top priority. As the team approaches the bridge, our boy thinks to himself that they need to find the enemy's gate core, the strength of the defenses, what types of creatures are present, or their abilities. Without this information, a direct attack would be impossible. As they land, he gets acknowledged as colonel by the soldiers and receives formal salutes, though he modestly downplays it. The lieutenant colonel praises him, noting that despite the lizardmen's assault, he destroyed their army without any casualties. Explains that the operation chief is absent, handling a minor emergency back at the Joint Chief headquarters. It appears that the headquarter has been attacked by some kind of bug-like monsters. Our boy doesn't think it's that serious, so they decide to go on with their planning. The soldier explains that while they know the gate's location, the gate core is still unidentified. They had a sniper deployed, but the area ahead has become swamp-like or hostile, making visibility and movement extremely limited. Our boy examines images showing the building overgrown with vines and moss. Contact with the environment is harmless, but lizardmen could hide anywhere, making free movement nearly impossible. Seeing all this, he figures that his skeleton knights might be able to help. However, when he summons Lancelot, the knight explains that this plan might not work. Even though they can easily move around the terrain in their spirit form, he still won't be able to find their location if they are hidden without being spotted. However, he knows someone with a special skill to steal information invisibly, using concealment or invisibility. Our boy uses 500 mana stones and an enchant stone to summon the assassin knight Mordred. We learn that he is a stealth specialist who can infiltrate enemy territory, gather intelligence, eliminate targets undetected, and make quick, strategic decisions. His has an ability to go invisible, but his body is still influenced by physical things, which means that he can still get hit. However, with the new Ghost Enchant Stone, they can make him ethereal for the time that he is invisible. Our boy assigns him the mission to locate the lizardmen, enter their territory, and find the gate core. The skeleton assassin agrees, understanding the mission immediately. Lancelot reminds him that survival is paramount, avoiding strong opponents is crucial, and returning alive is more important than gathering all data. With that, the skeleton sets off alone. Seeing this, the lieutenant asks if it's really okay to send him alone, but our boy assures him that it's all good since he is one of their best. They need his information before they can make any plans, so he suggests that Every take some rest until the assassin is back. As everyone starts leaving, he notices that the skeleton knight is still standing. He asks him why he isn't resting, but Lancelot denies feeling tired. Our boy also notices his armor has fewer scratches than before, even after the battle. The knight explains that Camelot allows armor to regenerate if sufficient materials are available. He also points out a newly generated stone with the damage regeneration attribute, which could be useful in the future. Suddenly, he enters combat mode, sensing someone secretly observing them. Our boy panics, fearing a nearby lizardman. The knight admits that he only felt their presence and doesn't know their location yet. He suddenly moves toward a container and spots the hidden observer. Before the guy knows it, he is already in front of him. He holds him at sword point and says that his life depends on how he answers his next question. The knight asks him why he was stalking them from a distance. Meanwhile, our boy hears the screaming and runs over to check what's going on. He shouts, witnessing his knight holding the man by his neck. Lancelot continues choking the man and presses him for an answer as he is running out of patience. With the little life he has left, the man calls out for our boy, and this only makes the knight more furious. Just as he is about to give him the most painful death imaginable, the hero intervenes, revealing that the man he is choking is actually his friend. Meanwhile, the assassin skeleton moves carefully through the lizardmen's territory, passing many dead bodies. He notices that these creatures fight among themselves for honor, acting like a warlike race. Therefore, the scent that's most familiar to them is blood. To make his scent not stand out, he also covers himself in blood and begins moving towards the massive tunnel ahead. As he walks inside, he wonders why the lizardmen would build such a huge entrance, as it seems unnecessary and harder to guard. Inside, he observes many lizard bands of different sizes, carefully noting their positions while avoiding contact. At one point, he nearly collides with a lizard, shivering at the thought that discovery here would mean death. Suddenly, an enemy appears right in front of him, but he uses his skill to slip past. He realizes that without his etherealization ability, he would already be dead. The most important thing for him is to find the gate core and return without being detected. In a deep room, he spots a round-headed creature interacting with an old man. He quickly recognizes this as the gate core. The old man scolds the creature for disrupting his magic studies, threatening to lock it up if it misbehaves. A mysterious voice from behind intervenes, belonging to the leader of the lizardmen. The voice reminds the old man of their deal that he will protect the gate core. Hearing this, the old man acts annoyed and argues that he never said he would harm the core, he was just going to trap it. The snake mentions that he might have been a mage of arcane, but that was all in the past. Right now, he is nothing. Suddenly, a massive tail wraps around him, and the voice warns him to stop his useless behavior unless he wants to get crushed. The mage quickly apologizes and the snake lets him go. Mordred observes everything, realizing that the old man must have been part of the Mage of Arcane and now protects the gate core. He can't really see the snake properly, but he knows that he is probably the leader of these monsters. All this time, Bro is casually leaning on a guard chameleon. He guesses that they probably made the tunnel so massive because of this snake guy. While he is thinking, the chameleon starts sweating as he feels someone invisible leaning against his leg. The creature suddenly attacks, jolting the assassin and nullifying his invisibility. The mage also notices him and reacts by summoning his scrolls. He uses his magic missile attack and aims it straight at the skeleton. The scene shifts to the hero's childhood. At school, he met a kid who teased him for his old-fashioned uniform. Our boy wanted to rearrange his face, but he held himself back. The boy continued teasing him and eventually got what he deserved. His name was Minwoo, and he used to be a loner who was always by himself boasting about his family's wealth. All the other kids thought of him as a show-off and ignored him. However, one day as he was playing on his Nintendo Switch, the other students ganged up on him and snatched it away, saying that he can probably buy more. When he tried resisting, they beat the crap out of him. For some reason, our boy decides to intervene, striking one of the boys with his school bag to protect the loner guy. The only reason he did it was to show the boy that he was not the guy to be messed with. However, the bullies thought he was just his friend, so they targeted him next. Just when one of the bullies was about to throw another punch, someone caught his wrist. He looked back to see the terrifying figure of his sister. The sister looked at him with a disappointing expression and said that he also needed to join her in the morning exercise. Our boy unwillingly agreed with her and started walking away while the guy with the glasses stayed behind. He looked back and asked him if he wasn't going with him. From that day on, the two of them became very close friends. They spent their entire junior school together, and even though they eventually ended up in different schools, they still stayed in touch. In college, they were reunited, and one day, while they were casually playing games, the friend told him that he was joining a dojo after seeing him and his sister practicing. The guy continued attending the classes throughout college, and thanks to that, he has awakened as a swordsman in present time. His friend tells him not to act shocked, since he himself is the representative of the entire city. He didn't know it was him, so he was stalking to make sure, and that's when he got caught by the skeleton. The skeleton knight didn't take it very well and starts to punish himself by staying in a kneeling position. Our boy knows that he wouldn't stop even if instructed, as he accepted the consequences voluntarily. Meanwhile, the knight thinks to himself that he overstepped and isn't worthy of being a knight. When the hero asks him about his mother, the friend hesitates and admits he doesn't know if she is safe. Sometime later, in the Lizardman territory, the skeleton knight breaks into a house to rescue Minwoo's mother. He introduces himself as one of the loyal knights of Kim and assures her that he will take her to her son. During the apocalypse, the friend's mother was separated from him by a transparent barrier due to the bidding war that took place. He had volunteered in the army to reach her, but the area became restricted after their loss. Even though the entire area terraformed, they are still hopeful that his mother is still alive since terraforming is not harmful in itself. However, that doesn't mean it's completely safe as she is still in enemy territory. This is why the skeleton knight puts it on himself to go and rescue her. Everything seems to be going well until he suddenly notices the assassin skeleton running away from a bunch of lizard men. The skeleton warns him to run away, but the knight knows it's a bit too late for that. Looking at their units, it seems unlikely that they can outrun them. Realizing that he needs to make a decision on the spot, he orders the assassin to retreat with the mom and deliver all critical information to the hero while he stays behind to hold off the enemy. He also instructs him to tell our boy that the enchant stone will be best used on Percival. The assassin skeleton wants to say something, but Lancelot cuts him off, saying there's no time. He understands and runs off quickly, leaving Lancelot behind. The knight grips his sword tightly and charges into battle without any fear, as he wants to prove himself to his master. Sometime later, the assassin skeleton returns to his master, carrying the Minwu's mother safely on his back. He reports that the mission is complete. Seeing his mother unharmed, the friend bursts into tears of relief. As our boy wonders why the knight hasn't returned yet, he gets system notification informing him that his spirit has been vanquished. Later, the protagonist stands silently beside the assassin listening to his story. He learns that Lancelot sacrificed himself to protect his friend's mother and ensure that he could deliver his message. He didn't die in the normal sense, as his spirit can be revived using the enchant and magic stones, though it won't be easy. Our boy wonders if he pushed Lancelot too hard, forcing him into unnecessary danger. Maybe he should have stopped him instead of letting him go alone. The assassin skeleton then shares the knight's final message that the enchant stone should be used for Percival. Hearing this, our boy remembers their past and thinks deeply about where the stone should truly go. This makes him realize that even in his last moments, the knight thought of others instead of himself. Covering his face in grief, he praises Mordred for his bravery and tells him to recount everything in detail so that the knight's sacrifice will not be wasted. Meanwhile, back in the cave, the knight's broken helmet is in the mage's possession. He analyzes the helmet and suspects the presence of a sorcerer or lich behind this. The snake commends him for catching a 7th rank opponent, saying it will weaken the enemy forces significantly. The mage calmly raises his hand and replies that in moments like this, it's not about saying good job, it's about saying thank you. He argues that catching the intruder was the job of his soldiers. The snake agrees but still doesn't say thanks. The wizard, clearly annoyed, says it's useless and questions what he plans to do with the enchantment stone. The snake calmly replies that he has no plans for it right now. He mentions that he would have given it to the 2 generals, but since they're gone, that's no longer an option. The mage interrupts with a sly grin, suggesting an obvious alternative himself. He offers to take the stone and in return promises to make him the ultimate scroll. He explains that scrolls are one-time items that let non-mages use magic and that their cost varies depending on the type, with the best ones being worth more than 3rd-class enhancement stones. The snake, however, doubts his skill, saying that his scrolls are poor quality because he traps living beings inside them. He argues that trading for armor or weapons would be more effective. The mage grows irritated, calling him a fool for not understanding his brilliant work and labeling him a savage. The snake calmly remarks that if refusing to follow his ways makes one a savage, then even arcane mages who reject his methods must be savages too. Enraged, the mage shouts, but the snake ends the argument, saying he'll use the enchant stone to strike a deal with the Emeth dimension, and warns him to use only the prisoners they provide for his scrolls. The mage insists it's unwise, but before he can continue, a noise comes from a hole in the rock. A massive skeleton knight emerges from the hole and introduces himself as Percival. The mage quickly recognizes him as a friend of the one they killed and assumes he's here for revenge. With a grin, he decides to test him and casts a powerful 2-cycle fireball scroll. The spell explodes with a deafening roar, but when the flames clear, the massive knight still stands without a scratch. Realizing his opponent is strong, the mage prepares another spell only to find that nothing happens. Confused, he looks at the portal that just opened and realizes, to his horror, that all his scrolls have been stolen. At that same moment, a system message appears, showing that the hero has successfully stored all the magic scrolls, using up 3,914 magic stones. Adjusting his headphones, our boy says it's a good result and tells his knights to handle the rest. Percival's radio lights up, and he asks if Mordred heard the message. The mage, panicking, shouts, demanding to know who stole his scrolls. But before he can react, the assassin suddenly appears and swiftly cuts off his head, remarking that he is the one who just killed him. Earlier, the hero had asked him if the enemy actually had a mage. Mordred confirmed it, saying he had seen and heard everything. The mage's name was Silzen, once an arcane mage who was later exiled. Our boy finds it interesting, recalling that the Skeleton King also mistook him for a mage and mentioned arcane. The Archer Knight explains that arcane mages are divided into 3 ranks, with even the lowest being of the 6th rank. The sister comments that if the weakest of them are that strong, they must be incredibly powerful. The Assassin Knight adds that the old man, having been banished, could no longer use magic. Hearing this, the sister laughs, saying a mage without magic sounds harmless. The assassin adds that he must have lost his rank too since he got exiled, so killing him might not be that hard, however he can still use scrolls. This surprises everyone. He explains that a scroll is a piece of paper that stores magic power. While it can only hold simple spells, it's still a valuable tool because it allows anyone to use magic. The old guy crafts these scrolls himself, and he has plenty of them, ready to use whenever he needs them in battle. Our boy points out two important things they need to figure out. Firstly, whether other lizardmen also have scrolls, and what kind of magic they contain. The assassin admits that he doesn't know the full answer, but thinking back to their previous encounter, he remembers being attacked by the mage. The assassin barely dodged the spell and used his stealth ability to hide, but it was kind of strange that the mage was relying on scrolls instead of his own magic. He wanted to investigate this further, so he stayed in the cave. The chameleon reported that there was an intruder who could hide his presence, so they needed to alert the others quickly. The assistant agreed, but before they could act, the assassin took the chance to attack. He silently killed the assistant and then revealed himself. Knowing he needed information for a strategic advantage, he swiftly struck again, decapitating the chameleon too. Meanwhile, the mage grew frustrated, calling his subordinates foolish lizards for failing to catch a single intruder. He complained that he had to do everything himself and that making scrolls was no easy task. The assassin, recalling all this, notes that the mage had even chased him outside the cave, which helped them learn more about both the mage and the lizardman's strength. Still, their pursuit came at a cost, and Lancelot lost his life in the process. Our boy reassures him, telling him that the information he risked his life to gather was crucial. Without it, they wouldn't have learned about the mage's existence. For now, he suggests they think about how to destroy the gate core. The archer points out that since the enemies rarely use scrolls, they must be difficult to create. That's probably why the old man didn't share them with the other lizardmen. The lieutenant adds that the fact the snake and the old man were both inside the cave guarding the gate's core suggests their main duty was its protection. However, it's strange that the old man left the cave to chase intruders. He believes there are only two explanations. Either their defensive force was too small, forcing the mage to join the fight himself, or they wanted to prevent any information from leaking and decided to use all their power for that reason. Our boy concludes that if that's true, then capturing the old mage would make dealing with the rest much easier. He mentions he might have an idea. After reaching the third level of subspace, our boy gained a new ability called Categorizes. Everything in the subspace is categorized based on a certain criteria. He currently has 3 categories. However, he can't create new ones or change the existing ones yet. If an item doesn't match any available category, it can't be stored. The only reason he managed to steal the Holy Spear earlier was that its weapon type matched the MF construction materials category. Recently, he advanced to the 4th level of his subspace after defeating the traitor Bongsu. With that advancement, he gained the ability to create new categories. That's when he came up with the idea of making scrolls their own category. Luckily for him, pack storage ability works even from a long distance. This means that his scrolls won't be safe even if the mage is hiding inside the cave. Our boy assigned his sister and the new big knight to the assault team. However, the knight turned out to be so good that his sister never got the chance to do anything. The knight quickly rammed through the entire defense, and using this chaos, Mordred snuck up on the mage to kill him. The snake felt his vibrations before, but it was too faint, so he didn't think much. Back in the present, he notices the knight charging towards the gate core. Before he can reach him, his massive tail smashes into him, sending him flying. Mordred turns quickly, realizing he must reach the gate's core before it's too late. Yet the snake lashes out again, knocking him aside too. He realizes that he has never heard of these knights before, despite all the information he gathered on their forces. This makes him fear that there might be more powerful knights in their army, so he decides to grab the gate core and escapes. The assassin stares at the hole in disbelief, wondering how the enemy managed to escape through solid stone. The snake knows that he might not be able to go against their entire army, but he can still take out their leader as he doesn't appear too powerful. It doesn't take long for him to find our boy due to the huge tag above the helicopter. Without wasting a second, he charges forward trying to devour him whole. Inside the helicopter, our boy calmly orders the system to ship a construction beam. In an instant, a long beam shoots downward, piercing through the snake's mouth and knocking him to the ground. The snake grabs the beam with his tail, hurls it aside and smashes it into pieces. He realizes that the attack used construction materials from the MF's dimension. From above, our boy notices that the snake is still standing. He asks the driver guy to keep their distance and starts shipping more metal beams. The snake, however, starts doing weird spinning moves to deflect his attack. At the same time, it uses a building to climb up and manages to split some venom on the helicopter, making it melt. The driver guy stares in horror as the glass warps. But before the poison can destroy the aircraft completely, our boy commands the system to recall it. Instantly, the helicopter vanishes into a glowing portal, and a moment later reappears from another one, restored and free from any damage. The snake looks on, baffled by this strange ability. The hero realizes it doesn't matter if the helicopter is hit again, as he can always summon a new one from his subspace. The real problem, however, is that the metal beam attacks are proving useless against the massive snake. As he watches tensely, he wonders if they should try using a special weapon just once. Moments later, a spear crackling with lightning streaks across the sky and impales the snake through the chest. The beast freezes in shock, recognizing it as Rakis's spear. Before he can react, a second spear follows, piercing another part of his body. His eyes widen in disbelief, and he wonders how can his enemy possess two holy spears. Our boy then casts two circle ice magic, and a massive spear of frost shoots forward, slamming into the snake and freezing parts of his scales. The monster roars in pain, realizing that the attacks are being launched using stored scrolls. He screams that these attacks won't do anything, but our boy can see that the spear still managed to freeze him for a bit. As the snake tries attacking again, he uses product recall to go back inside the portal, along with the rest of his team. The snake can still see the massive tag in the sky, but our boy is nowhere to be found. This confuses him, and he wonders if this is one of his special abilities. Then, to his astonishment, the hero and his entire team emerge from another portal with each of them holding a scroll. Together, they unleash a barrage of two-circle magic, creating dozens of ice spears that streak through the air and stab deep into the snake's massive body. Our boy calls out that the monster is down and orders everyone to fall back. He instructs Pax to summon the Black Hawk helicopter again. The team quickly boards it through the portal. As the helicopter rises into the air, the hero notices that Snake is still immobilized thanks to the ice spears. Now is their chance to hit him with everything they have. He opens another portal and everyone just starts spamming spells on the poor snake. When the smoke clears, our boy steps on his body and asks why they are invading their world. With whatever life he has left, the snake murmurs that there was no other choice. When the hero presses further, asking what that means, he simply replies that he would not understand just yet. It won't be long before they are the ones invading another dimension. It's just how this system has been programmed. With this, the snake finally dies, and a system notification appears, stating that his dimensional account has been transferred, with a balance of 6,911 units. Our boy already has an account, so the amount is added automatically. The total count of magic stones now reaches 17,668. With the monster dead, he wonders what the enemy meant about not having any choice but to invade. The assassin explains that although the main enemy is dead, the gate core remains intact. He recalls seeing the snake swallow it earlier, likely for protection. Realizing this, the hero guesses that the core must now be inside his body. Mordred reassures him not to worry, saying their dimension is skilled at cutting open such corpses. He rushes into the snake's mouth along with the other knights. It doesn't take long for them to find the gate core, and our boy receives another 33,638 mana stones. At the same time, he notices that the terraformed landscape is vanishing. The assassin informs him that when searching for the core, he found these enchantment stones. Our boy uses those stones to appoint Lancelot back into his army. Standing under the sunlight, the skeleton knight looks back at our boy. He tells him that this victory is all thanks to him, though he admits he should have said it earlier. Lancelot humbly replies that he only did what any true knight must, so he doesn't deserve his gratitude. The hero admits that carrying out our duties is not easy, so he should just learn to accept the gratitude. At the same time, he notices helicopters soaring across the sky. In Korea, only Incheon had fallen in the bidding war, and now that it's reclaimed, most of the invading monsters have been wiped out. Still, the country isn't entirely safe as lesser creatures like orcs and wyverns remain, and it will take time to restore peace and rebuild. The chief steps out of a helicopter, calling for the hero. The protagonist finds it unusual to see someone other than the head of operations, since he usually appears during critical missions. The chief explains that he came urgently because the exotic terrain has been disappearing. More supply helicopters will arrive soon after. When he sees the massive corpse beneath the hero's feet, he realizes it's the leader of the lizardmen and shouts in disbelief, wondering how they managed to defeat such a creature. After some time, a steaming plate of food is placed on the table. Our boy looks at it while drooling since he hasn't had something like this in ages. It all started right after his friend's mother was rescued. Once she was safe, she was sent to subspace to be treated by his nurse sister. As a thanks, she wanted to treat them to something nice, but the sister assured her that they were all eating well. When asked about food, she revealed her brother's ability. When she learned about his ability, she became interested and mentioned that she had a close friend who was a chef. She offered to speak with him about helping. That friend turned out to be a famous chef, Ungshik Ju. Using unlimited ingredients from the logistics center, he created beautiful dishes filled with flavor and warmth. Even though they had unlimited materials, the chef only cooked each dish once. However, our boy stored those dishes in the warehouse category, allowing them to ship out countless dishes instantly. After reclaiming Incheon from the lizardmen, they celebrated with a grand feast. In the middle of the meal, his brother's wife suddenly covered her mouth, looking uncomfortable. Worried, the nurse asked if she had indigestion, but the girl assured her that she was fine, though she seemed tense. After analyzing her symptoms, the sister told her that they seemed like the early signs of pregnancy. After the meal, her husband stood and announced that they had already done the tests and confirmed that she was indeed pregnant. The group erupted in joy. The driver guy cheered at the news, joking that our boy was going to be an uncle. The hero smiled awkwardly, but was clearly happy. feeling as if he had suddenly stepped into adulthood. However, good news never lasts long in their world. In the midst of the cheerful chatter, the colonel quietly leaned toward the hero and whispered that an urgent radio message had arrived from the operational headquarters. It was from the chief himself, and that he needed to respond immediately. Our boy talks to the chief on phone and gets immediately notified that the terraforming process is still going on. The chief explains that they have already shared updates about the situation with China and Japan through the remaining communication channels. Both countries are experiencing large-scale terraforming, and now its effects are starting to spread beyond their borders. Each nation faces different problems. China is suffering from toxic gases leaking from the Beijing Gate, while Japan is dealing with poisonous water flowing out of the Fukuoka Gate. When he asks which poses the greatest danger, the chief says that although both are serious, the toxic gases in Beijing are far more threatening. He also warns that even though the poisonous air hasn't spread yet, the bugs have already begun to appear. It's only a matter of time before the gases follow. He insists that the Beijing Gate must be sealed quickly. Their forces plan to send reinforcements, but he admits that it's not a problem they can handle alone and feels embarrassed to ask for his help. Our boy cuts him off, saying there's no need for hesitation. If they don't act now, the Korean peninsula will become a wasteland. Of course he will help. He does, however, worry whether entering China without an official invitation might cause trouble. The chief confirms that it might, but the hero doesn't hesitate. He orders preparations for the third security group to depart that very night, and ends the call. He isn't going to let his nephew or niece grow up in a world filled with gas or giant insects. It's time to restore Earth to its original state. With these thoughts in mind, he instructs Pax to upgrade the subspace. The system responds, notifying him that he used 10,000 mana stones to level up his parallel dimension. After the upgrade, he unlocks some new features, including the option to install a subspace portal for 1,000 magic stones. Our boy quickly authorizes it, and the portal is successfully installed. These installed portals are different from his usual summoned portals. Once installed, they cannot be moved and have no physical strength to block attacks. However, anyone with permission can enter them to access the subspace, making them a powerful tool for defense and quick transport. His friend jokes that it sounds almost like cheating and asks if he is leaving for China. Our boy explains that he is planning to close the gate in China first and then head to Japan. His friend smiles and tells him he's becoming a world-class hero and offers his help anytime, explaining that although he hasn't shown much yet, he has awakened as a swordsman. Before parting, he thanks the hero for everything and asks him to stay safe. Kim nods, raises his hand in farewell, and reminds his friend to take care as well before setting off on his new mission. Sometime later, at Incheon International Airport, the captain of the third security group calls out to a guy named James, who is working under a plane. He mentions that the team that was supposed to go to China has already arrived. The man crawls out from under the plane and tells him that he isn't done yet. The captain welcomes our boy at the airport and mentions that they've been preparing an aircraft for them for their trip to China. He shows them the C-130J aircraft that looks like it's come straight out of a spy movie. The plane is still undergoing modifications, since they might have to face monsters along the way. He assures them that it'll be done soon and they will be ready for takeoff in no time. Hearing this, our boy mentions that the engineers might be working on the bottom since he saw some lights down there. The captain corrects him, saying that they only have one engineer working on the entire plane. His name is James, the same guy we saw earlier. Just as they talk about him, the man finishes his modifications and walks over to them looking all jacked. Since he can only speak English, he has to hold a special mana stone to act as the interpreter as he explains all the modifications he did on the plane. The guy explains that he only modified the belly of the aircraft since that's the only part which can realistically get attacked. He used to be a formed aircraft engineer before the apocalypse, so he awakened as a mechanic. Even though he was already good at his job, our boy wasn't expecting him to be this good. After checking the modified parts and doing some inspections on the aircraft, they decide to distribute some food and other supplies to the team at the airport. Our boy also hands over food to the engineer guy, and that's when he learns that he is not like others. Despite living in an apocalyptic world, he refuses the food, saying that he is full. It's not like he is happy or upset, he just doesn't care about it. Hearing this, our boy orders the system to ship the food back. The engineer guy is a bit surprised by the AI robots and looks in awe. The hero notices this and wonders if he can offer him some kind of machines to get him to join his team. Using his abilities, they can achieve great things in the lab. He offers the guy some motorbikes and any machines he wants and asks if he would join him. Initially, he rejects his offer since they just met and he doesn't really trust him. However, when our boy is about to leave, he stops him and asks if he wants to make use of his ability. The guy agrees to work with him on the condition that he will take him back to America. Hearing this, the hero mentions that it might take some time since he is planning to go to Japan after taking care of things in China. The guy doesn't really mind as long as he gets to America. After getting him into his team, our boy asserts his dominance and farms some aura by spamming dozens of Black Hawks and other vehicles in front of the engineer. He even does the cool walk-off, telling him that it's his signing bonus. The engineer stands there wondering what kind of a sick ability he has. After hiring the guy, the team finally decides to leave. Just as the chief conveyed on the phone, the situation in China looks grim and buildings are being swarmed by massive bugs. They land on an empty road and immediately get inside the portal. Lancelot steps out the other side to make sure everything is safe and gives them the signal to come out. Our boy walks out with a gas mask since the entire place is filled with toxic gas. It isn't long before the leader of Heaven's exile clan Unyang arrives to welcome them. Thick clouds of toxic smoke surround the ruins of the destroyed buildings. The clan leader quickly shuts the door, relieved that the giant bugs haven't followed them. He apologizes for the poor condition of the room, admitting it isn't much, but our boy assures him that it's fine. He looks at the people inside glowing faintly with energy and wonders what they're doing. The leader raises his hand and explains that they're using their inner energy to purify the air so that everyone can safely remove their masks. This ability belonged to people who have awakened from the world of martial arts. Across China, ancient martial arts schools have preserved their traditions for generations. When monsters appeared, some of their members awakened special powers that were slightly different from those of ordinary awakened people. While others gained abilities like subspace or healing, martial artists awakened an inner energy that they could freely control with their will. These powers made them extremely powerful, so the Chinese government quickly gathered them to fight the monsters. Their leader is Unyang, who is also known as Mistblade. The guy reminds everyone that not all awakened martial artists are like them, but they were summoned by the government to defend the country. However, the ongoing competition between regions makes things more complicated. In Beijing alone, 2 bidding competitions took place and their enemy came from a dimension called Beelzebul. Our boy notes that Beijing's population is twice that of Seoul, so it's understandable that it has multiple competitions. The guy admits that they don't have enough information about their enemies. The main problem is the poisonous gas released by the monsters. It's deadly. Ordinary soldiers and awakened people who can't use inner energy die instantly upon contact. Those with martial arts powers can neutralize the poison, but doing so drains so much energy that they can't fight properly. Since they couldn't win the bidding war, the gates opened, allowing more bugs to come in. Since the detoxification takes inner energy, they are at a disadvantage in a longer war. Moreover, it requires fresh air, so they are running out of time with the gas spreading more and more. Hearing this, our boy smiles and confidently walks into his subspace. He has fresh air cans stored in the facility, so he plans to extract air from them using the lab and register it as a product. Doing so allows him to ship out fresh air from the subspace continuously. The building immediately fills with new fresh air, and the people inside finally breathe in some life. The leader stares at the portal in disbelief and wonders what is going on. When he called the Korean army for help, he didn't have much hope. People without any inner energy couldn't even walk around in the gas, so he was expecting them to refuse. However, the chief confidently told him that their colonel was coming. Initially, he thought of them as fools, but seeing all this with his own eyes, he realizes that he was the fool all along. He quickly apologizes to our boy for causing trouble to them, and assures him that they won't let the gas reach their country. Our boy awkwardly tells him not to apologize since it isn't his fault. The leader mentions that they might need a few days to rest and recover their energy, and the hero agrees. The next moment, he ships out some tasty dishes for all of them and they have a feast. After eating, they all gather to discuss their strategy. The leader explains that there are different kinds of bugs and they even have different ranks. Most are 8th and 9th ranked, but some may even be at rank 7. The best way to identify the 7th ranks is to look for bugs that seem rare, since normal-looking bugs are mostly not that strong. After that, he starts discussing the location of the gate core. While everyone is listening, the skeleton knight notices something out the window. He informs everyone that a weird-looking monster is outside. Turns out it's a giant centipede, and looking at it, it's probably at the 7th rank. Our boy can't help but focus on its long, creepy legs. They already looked disgusting when the creature was smaller, but now that it's grown so large, they look even more horrifying. He wonders how something that big can move so fast and guesses that it might even be a 6th rank. The sect leader corrects him, explaining that the centipede is actually 8th rank. Our boy is surprised that such a huge creature ranks so low. The leader then adds that despite its terrifying appearance, it isn't very strong. Among insect-type monsters, centipedes are actually among the weakest species. They just look powerful because of their size and appearance. Just then, Sol walks in, saying that since the centipede is only level 8, it's the perfect target for her. She's been bored for too long and wants some action. She declares that no one else is allowed to touch it, and that she'll handle it herself. Her brother tries to interfere, but she isn't planning on staying behind this time. Our boy watches as his sister opens the window and jumps out of the building. He calls after her, cheering her on and telling her to show the centipede her true strength. The sect leader, however, looks worried. The hero assures him that there's no need to be worried as the girl is his real sister, and he knows exactly how strong she can be. But the sect leader reminds him that the air outside is filled with toxic gas and asks if they've prepared for that. That's when he suddenly realizes that she went out without even taking a mask. Outside, she charges her fist with crackling electricity, grinning with excitement as she launches a fierce punch straight at the centipede. The sect leader watches with concern, thinking that no matter how strong she is, the toxic gas will weaken her and make fighting difficult. He also knows that the centipede's outer shell is extremely tough, and he doubts her attack will do much damage. Thinking this, he quickly decides to go help and tells his student, Long Quan, to prepare. Their plan is for him to face the centipede directly while she rescues and heals the sister if she gets injured. Before they can move, a thunderous explosion shakes the entire building. Everyone rushes to the window, alarmed. When the sect leader looks outside, he's stunned to see that in just one blow, the girl has completely crushed the centipede's head and killed it on the spot. She stands there laughing, clearly pleased with herself, admiring the power of her punch. The sect leader is amazed. Even he needs to channel a large amount of internal energy just to crack the centipede's shell, so how did she manage to break through it without using any? The student points out that her stance resembles the righteous fist technique, but our boy is confused since to him, it just looked like a normal punch. That's when the sect leader wonders if she possesses divine anatomy, an incredibly strong physique built for martial arts. But before anyone can celebrate, she suddenly coughs up blood and collapses. The sect leader immediately orders her student to treat her at once. Later, the group regathers to resume their planning. The sudden centipede attack had thrown off their previous strategy, but they quickly get back on track. The sect leader explains that they must push forward no matter what. They discuss the challenges ahead. The toxic air slows their movements, and the overwhelming number of insects makes it impossible for them to fight the bugs alone. Moreover, it's hard to figure out which insects are rank 7 and which are rank 8, and they must close the gate within 3 days. Their plan is simple but risky. Avoid unnecessary fights and head straight for the gate's core. They already know where it is, but as they move closer, the insects grow more violent. These creatures aren't intelligent, yet they instinctively defend the core, making the task extremely dangerous. Still, this is their best plan given their circumstances. The sect leader offers to teach Sol a few techniques and introduces his disciple. Since they don't have much time to assess her skills, he proposes a duel between the two. Sol isn't too sure and asks them if it's really necessary. The student assures her that training with her will benefit both of them since she also needs to improve her skills. However, she warns not to underestimate her since she is second only to his master. The sister accepts the challenge and launches her first attack, moving fast and using energy to boost her strikes. Their sparring begins, and the sect leader watches proudly commenting on the different martial arts technique that the sister is using. Our boy, who has been hit by her countless times over the years, just sees them as normal punches. The sect leader even mentions that if she could use a sword, she would become far more powerful. He offers to teach swordsmanship, though our boy declines for himself and instead asks if his friend can learn. Since the sister doesn't yet have martial internal energy, she relies on her barrier energy to strengthen her jumps and attacks. This allows her to pick up new techniques quickly, and her progress is impressive. He is proud of how fast she's improving. She keeps practicing, working on strikes, barrier breaks, and close combat drills. Seeing everyone grow stronger in this new environment fills our boy with motivation. He decides he can't stay idle while others train. With plenty of mana stones at his disposal, he plans to create new equipment to fight against the insect swarms. His subspace has now reached level 5, unlocking more advanced functions for his lab. The lab itself is at level 3, allowing him to simulate and preview equipment as holograms and even test their performance before making them. He starts by experimenting with a bug zapper, but it's not really effective against bigger-sized bugs, and increasing its size isn't really economical. While he is busy trying to think of a way to get rid of the bugs, his sister-in-law walks in and claims that she can do it. He isn't really sure about that, but quickly remembers that she also awakened as an alchemist, which gave their family plenty of drinking water. The sister-in-law reveals that she has been using the lab a lot while he was gone, and asks him what kind of bug spray he needs. After glancing at the giant centipede corpse behind him, he asks her to make the most powerful spray that can wipe out any bug.